Gather around, freaks. It's my birthday, so I'm taking over. I'll let my intro video do the talking for me. So gather around the internet radio and gather around the internet campfire because it's time once again for Hey, did you see this one?
The night is dark, and the air is still.
That was weird. A human circles the sun likely 80 times in their life, and smack dab in the middle is 40. This month, one co-host of the hit review podcast, Hey, did you see this one? Turns the big 4-0. There are no themes this time around, as Jason carefully curated a series of films that include horror, comedy, drama, and action to suit the needs of the one true ruler. Praise the ruler! The ruler also demands that Jason invite his best and most famous friends on the show in order to fulfill the wish. The birthday wish. Because this April, Hey, did you see this one presents no themes, just friends. Jason's 40th birthday extravaganza.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hey, did you see this one? Steve, that was the most stoic reaction to something you did. Thought you'd at least crack a smile, but
it's good. It's fine. I see you couldn't resist putting in 20-year-old footage of yourself, you pervert.
Yeah, I know. It's a problem that I have. Welcome to Hey, did you see this one? The weekly roundtable review discussion podcast where we pull a movie apart and put it back together and leave no stone unturned. This is episode 177 or 78, and if you're playing at home, it's season 3, episode 29, I think. That's a lot of numbers.
It's a lot of numbers. Congrats on that.
Thank you. It's a lot. We have, of course, entered April. It's my birthday month. I'm going to pick all the movies and annoy Steve endlessly with my horrible taste in everything. As you can see from that intro video.
What else is new?
He has to watch that 4 times. But we are joined, our first time club. It's a new club I'm starting to welcome Chris Westmus. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm saying
Absolutely.
it phonetically. Also known as EY West from Super Kicked Wrestling, my broadcast colleague at Super Kicked each and every month.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to join the first time club. Obviously, it's a single solitary moment in time because the next time will be a second time. So this is a very fantastic moment here. And thank you again for having me, Jason and Steven.
No problem.
Welcome.
We were supposed to be joined by Slam Campbell from Super Kicked as well, but the trainer for Super Kicked fell ill, and since he's kind of the number 2 in command over there, he had to go and basically teach the class tonight. So shout out to him. He did send in a quick few-minute review that he wanted us to play. I'll play that later in the show. But at the top of the show here, We usually do some like production talk and some we sort of do our brief histories with the movie, but I don't think that's necessary here because this is like a Canadian indie flick that doesn't really have a whole lot to talk about. So we're gonna skip through that this week, and we're gonna go right to the quick synopsis.
Zardoz speaks to you. He demands you synopsize this film. Tell him how, why, who, what occurs in this film.
That's right. So I'm going to take
so
a crack.
long since Zardoz has been here. I'm so glad he's back.
I know we're coming out. It was Freddy all last month because
Freddy Krueger, that horrible nightmare man. He just really loves to call us bitches and yell at us.
It's true. He did it so many times. I get a complex. I'll just do a quick. The synopsis for this movie is comically short because it's basically a small-time wrestling company in the 80s accepts a well-paying gig in the backwoods. In a backwoods. Yep, $50,000 going to change lives. Only to learn that the community is run by a mysterious cult leader with devious plans for their match. And just to expand on that, the first half of the movie is them sort of like establishing the company and what they are and who they are. And then the middle part is them going there. And then the last 40 minutes is basically classic horror movie stuff.
Yes.
In a 5-match wrestling sort of format, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was cool. But do you have anything to add to that, guys, or do you want to just move into the body of the episode?
I mean, not really. I think I could give like a brief sort of like what I thought it was going to be compared to what it actually was, because you had described this movie to me as a wrestling movie, but it's a slasher movie. So I had built which is to look at it, you would think that, but once they start watching it, I'm like, that's not what it is at all. It's like it's almost like a classic like satanic panic video movie from the 80s, which is delightful because it's set in the 80s and it's using all of those tropey things that were like heavily propagandizing just sort of like Dungeons and Dragons and wrestling and rock and roll and all that stuff from the 80s in this movie. So to see that that's what they were doing, I kind of got even more on board because I was already on board for like a slasher, sort of like one by one picking off wrestlers. That would have been fun on its own. But this version of that movie, I think, is better, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because you know what you're getting with a slasher movie, whereas this, I was left guessing. A lot of the dialogue I was able to predict, which I was happy to yell at my TV, being like, I was right. They said the thing. But, you know, to have all of that sort of like weird 80s nonsense shoved into a movie set in the 80s is fun.
Well, just to piggyback off that, I didn't know at all what the movie was going to be about, other than it being a wrestling movie when Jason mentioned that. And to see all of that, like satanic panic stuff and the 80s references and even it being set in the 80s, or is it late 70s? Yeah, late 80s. It was a shock to me, and I loved that already. It was just like, okay, this is going to be one of those old school, really like gritty, like horror movies that are, you know, exploitative and not afraid to go there. Kind of got a bit of gore, a bit of camp, and you know, you put a wrestling veneer on top of that, and now you've got a recipe for something real bad, which is real good in my opinion.
Yeah,
the SWF or whatever,
a disaster piece.
Yes.
Yeah. The SWF company, actually, the way that it's shot and how it's kind of dark and dingy at that place that they start at, and even when they get to the place they go to later in the movie, kind of reminded me of Super Kicked a little bit.
It did. I got this exact same feel. I was like, holy cow, this is like complete underground, dark, like blood sports style wrestling organization. And I immediately thought of Super Kicked. I was like, this is the Wild West of the wrestling world.
So
and we have that
what's his name, the guy who's in charge of Superkick, calling in you guys and being like, I'm gonna give you 15% of the gate,
right.
We're gonna 50 grand for the night. It's just set in his barn in the middle of nowhere. You guys in or what?
When I was training to do Superkicked in the first place, they sometimes will rent out the ring and the wrestlers to like private functions. We
Right.
set up the ring in somebody's backyard one time for a kid's birthday, and it wasn't this. Obviously, we survived with our lives,
You
but
tell
it
me
was
the kid didn't come out and be like, "Sacrifice him to the wind."
nope.
That was the best part. I can't wait to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
Close though. It was unique. We did a wrestling like tribute show for Sweet Daddy Siki as well
Oh,
one time. And I
yeah.
got to play a jobber. I had a mask on because they like to protect the wrestlers when you're coming up.
Mhm.
So if you job out, throw a mask on and then get beaten up by somebody that didn't know what they were doing. He was just
Yeah.
some guy, and he put me in a camel clutch, but like cinched it in, and I thought for a minute I was gonna die.
He's like one cut above a jobber. He's allowed to like beat you up, but barely.
He was one of the. Do you know the Megan brothers? They were
Mm,
they're famous for bringing back Virgil and the Iron Sheik as like
nice.
Twitter accounts. They were running
Okay.
during that era when Virgil was talking about the fuck money and
Oh, yeah.
and pasta sauce and whatever from Olive Garden, and also
Yep.
the break his back and make him humble chic stuff
Yep,
about
yep.
Hulk. That's from that. Those guys created all that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so they used to do these wrestling shows, and we used to take our ring there and our wrestlers and do it up. I don't know if he does that too much now.
They
But
used to call me "fuck money pasta sauce" in high school.
That's an amazing nickname. Holy cow.
wow.
Sweet Daddy Siki. I remember being a kid, like the first show I saw was at Monarch Park. It was like one of his promotion, whatever it would have been back then. I don't know what it was called, but I just remember it was outside in the park and they had the wrestling ring set up, and like it was surreal, right? Like super cool. You just see wrestling on TV the whole time, and then you're seeing it in person. It was kind of awesome.
I don't know
And,
if I've ever asked you this before.
Yeah.
It never comes up. We don't talk about this a whole lot because old Surly Jim comes in and
Disrupts
dominates the
everything.
conversation. But
Yeah.
what's your sort of history with wrestling? Like, have you
Yeah,
just
I
been a
mean-
fan your whole life?
Oh yeah,
basically?
absolutely. Like from the get-go, I mean, I guess earliest memories are kind of like, I don't know, WrestleMania 5-ish kind of stuff and Mega Powers type thing. And I had a backyard wrestling federation for many years, coming from grade school all the way into like, I don't like to tell people this, but like high school and onward. And yeah, it was great stuff. I'm still the champion, so that's an accolade I'll take hopefully to the grave, unless there's gonna be like a geriatric match sometime in the future, which I hope not. I thought about it once when we had a big snowfall. I was like, oh man, we could pull out one more match here.
Yeah.
But,
one more match.
right?
One
Yeah.
more match.
So no, yeah, always been a huge WWF fan and also WCW. I watched both. My friend had the black box, as we all called it, so he got all the pay-per-views and stuff. He was our outlet for WCW. So I would go there and see like the old War Games, Sting Squadron type stuff. Huge Vader fan. But yeah, always been a huge wrestling fan, wrestling nerd.
That's great. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty much the same for me. Steve,
Yeah.
not so much.
I mean, I've proven time and time again, Jason, that I have like a weird dark corner of my mind where I'll pull out some weird WWF
knowledge.
lore. Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
like, remember when Kane was introduced? I'll be like his backstory, like say his whole backstory, and Jason's like, I had no idea you knew this. Like,
Yeah, you knew who Sting was
Mhm.
last time we did
'cause
wrestling.
Sting was my favorite because he looks like a
Yeah.
ghost, and he has a baseball bat.
Yeah.
What a-
See,
why
I'm
would I
I'm
like
a
Sting?
Beach Boys Sting fan. Like I would love Sting when he was just like that vanilla.
blonde.
Yeah. That blonde Sting was just great. But I
Yeah.
also love the Crow Sting.
Most of it was it was mostly from video games when I was a kid. Like I was really into
Yeah.
the video games, but I didn't really like watching it on TV and all that. I just felt a little disconnect. But when you're playing it, it's a little bit more
Yeah.
you feel like you're there. And it's the same thing like going to the Super Kick matches.
Mhm.
I have the same thing about sports in general as well. Like I don't really enjoy playing sports video games, but when I'm at a sporting event,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, but I'm not going to watch baseball on TV, but I'll like baseball when I'm at the event. The
It's
same
so
thing
true.
is wrestling. Where like I don't really like watching it on TV, but when I go to the arena and we're yelling feather light when they pull out the ladder, like feather light, feather light. Yeah, I'm in. I'm sold.
Yeah,
I'm
the
part of
atmosphere
it.
is nice.
Yeah. I'm yelling, sacrifice him to the dirt. Sacrifice.
Turn on the
Yeah,
sprinkler for some reason. Water match.
That was so good.
Yeah.
That was
Well,
so good.
we can probably get into it.
The body of the episode.
Yeah, the body of the episode.
The body of the episode.
Jesse, the body of the episode.
The body of the episode.
Whoa.
Segment of the show where, of course, this is the podcast of it all. We're going to run down the movie from start to finish. We're going to start with 5 Deaths in the Ring. That is the thing, which I was like, that's an interesting way to start this movie. But basically, we meet Misbehave, and she's sort of the protag of the movie, but she's cool. And this movie does a very interesting thing that happens a lot of times. I think Glow did it a little bit, and Heels does it where
You sound a little bit underwater, Jason.
do I?
Now you're good. You just needed to take a breath. Something you need to do more often on this show.
Right?
Sometimes I just go and go and go, like the Energizer Bunny. But something interesting this movie did, a lot like when they depict wrestling in television and movies, especially Glow and especially Heels, is the people who are face in the wrestling show, like in the TV show, will be assholes behind the scenes. And it's the opposite here, where we're following the heels in the show who end up being sort of the protagonists of the story, but not by this is interesting. This is different because as it turns out, they're like drugging the faces to be heels, or I don't know. We'll discuss why when we get to it, but
I followed it pretty tightly because I didn't have a lot to latch onto in this movie. So I'm like, I need to really understand the lore and what's going on here. The mechanics must make sense because otherwise,
like the thing.
there wasn't much to sort of grasp onto as to what was going on. So the little things they did give me, I'm like, oh, interesting. They have his family hostage. Okay.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely took note of that. I was like, oh, that they just had to put that in. Gives him the motivation to do what he tries to do later.
The one that didn't really make the most sense was the first one, but we'll talk about it when we get there. But they do some good housekeeping here. They do a fun intro for all the characters that we're going to meet throughout the movie, and you get a couple of super moves, a couple of punches and kicks and throws and grapples and things. And I'm like, okay, we get to see their fighting style a little bit, as well as the dynamism, and also just sort of like their shtick as wrestlers.
We were introduced to Rusty Beans, the announcer, who's I relate to that as the announcer for Superkick. We see a tag match between the Beast Bros, who are just like beast guys, and Thick and Thin, who are like religious figures. There's Kid Humble, who seems to be like the top baby face. Stephen Ogg, is that how you say his last name? He's in this movie. He's great. He's of course Trevor from Grand Theft Auto 5, which I've seen him in a lot of television, not a whole lot of movies. So it's interesting to see him. He's got acting chops.
He's good. He's always good in everything he's in. I think he is kind of typecast to a certain degree in a lot of stuff, but every once in a while you'll see him pop up in something where he's kind of playing against grain in terms of what you're used to with him. I wouldn't say that this is an example of that, but they do give him enough in this movie for you to understand a little bit more dimension to him, as opposed to like the Beast Bros. You're like, yeah, these guys are just beasts. We don't need to know any more about them.
The first thing I saw him in after GTA 5 was, remember the show Broad City?
I do.
With the two woman comedians, and they live in New York, and it's kind of like a Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of show. He showed like they get locked out of their apartment, and he shows up as like the most perverted like locksmith you've ever seen. He's like licking the key and stuff. And I was like, oh, is he just gonna play Trevor forever? But then you see him show up in something like The Walking Dead, and he's actually like a pretty well thought out character in that. Yeah, and you can see his acting chops in that. So I was interested by that. Also, we have Enigma Jones, who never speaks. He wears a luchador mask, and Lazarus Smashley. He might actually be the top face. I don't know. But then also Kate the Great, who is what I'm talking about when she's playing the face in the ring, she's the top woman baby face, and behind the scenes, she seems like a real piece of shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even behind the scenes, she seems like she's trying to be too nice, where she's being
Yeah.
she's being like two-faced, but
Almost
she's
like a mean girl.
It's sort of like when you go meet someone for the first time and you're like, this person's being far too pleasant, and there's something unnerving about it.
And I believe like the misbehave kind of mentions that a little later. She's like, look at her. She's kind of the same out of the ring as she is in the ring, but is she, like it's a little bit of a fake persona. She's just trying to carry over that personality from the ring to outside the ring so that there's no, the essence of kayfabe stays alive.
Yeah.
And that was interesting.
And
We
it is
also-
important to note that it is 1988. So
Yes.
in the world, kayfabe was, people still thought wrestling was real. And we'll get to sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I was just gonna say it's also important to note that we discover later in the movie that she's actually the daughter of a satanic
Right.
cult.
Yeah. that
Basically
was
like a
really-
plant. Like she's been planted there. Which again we'll talk about when we get there, but it's kind of a weird reveal. Also, just kind of like I kind of felt that the characters in this movie, in terms of like the in-ring personas, they didn't get kooky enough with it, in my opinion. Like my favorite shit from when I was a kid were the wrestlers that had like really gimmicky crap going on. And I understand that wrestling goes through eras where it's like, oh, everybody has a gimmick now, and then it's like, okay, a bunch of normal ass dudes come in and they're like, my thing is that I'm tall. I don't have a gimmick.
I'm a technician in the
Yeah, so maybe that's because of, but they even had the gimmicky things like the Bible thumping thick and thin or whatever.
Yeah, the Beast Brothers are kind of like a Legion of Doom meets like Berserker kind of duo.
And I kind of think that I like the Beast Bros the most almost, because I'm like, at least they have something there. But then they have the two Mormon looking
Generic,
guys who look like they're, they go to door to door asking you to join the Church of Latter-day Saints or whatever. But then they also have the cult leader guy who is also like a Jesus person. I'm like, don't do two Jesus things. Like make it one different.
Yeah,
make
that's
something
true.
else.
There's only like 5 of you, don't have some overlap.
You don't need to
That's
have that
true.
much overlap. But then they have one guy who's like, his whole thing is he's constantly hairspraying himself. So you think, okay, so he's supposed to be the vain one. But then the other guy is like looking into a mirror all the time. So he's also the vain one. So like, why can't you just get a little bit creative for 5 minutes? You can make more than that. Combine the
there's a lot
mirror
of-
guy with the hairspray guy.
I thought there was a lot of room to explore the world that they're inhabiting, but I also really relate to a company having a very small roster, because Chris, imagine if Superkick didn't like bring in people from around Southern Ontario, like other people from other promotions. We do have like a core 10 people that we could still put on a show with, and it would be fine. But it's it's I wonder how many times the fans of SAW Wrestling, that's the name of the SAW, I wonder how many times they've seen variations of these matches.
And that just goes to what you're saying, like when you have a limited roster, there's only so many permutations of those matches you can have before you start running them back over and over again. So like Superkick, what they do, which is ingenious, is they source talents from other independent federations and promotions, and even like the big leagues like TNA. And not only does that give the other wrestlers exposure, gives them another chance to it gives them a chance to work with some of the up-and-coming talent like Slam Campbell, who couldn't be here tonight. And it's perfect. Going back to SAW, I don't know how they continue to have shows with like 6 people on their roster, but seems to, maybe we caught the movie starts at like the pinnacle of their like success there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it almost seems like Lean Gene, whatever his name,
Mean Joe
Jolene. I feel like he's like the star who's come in to. He's kind of washed up, but he's also kind of like he's been on.
He's a legend.
made it
Yeah,
to
he's
the
like a
big leagues.
legend guy.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to. It's Kate the Great and him are, I think, the two draws, right? Like we want them. People are there to see those matches, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're right.
Ironically,
It
Misbehave
almost seemed,
looks like a wrestler comparatively.
yeah, I was like, is she actually a wrestler? Because I know that most of the people in this movie are not, but I'm like the side characters. But like, if she is a wrestler, she's also a pretty good actor. Like she's doing a very good job.
Yeah.
But yeah, she had the physicality and like the build of wrestlers that I've seen. So I'm like, yeah, she's believable as an actor.
She was believable.
Kate the Great, not so much. I'm like, Kate the Great, you look like you would get broken in half immediately.
Totally.
No.
She's not, but she's from an NBC show called Transplant, which is a couple seasons. So she's like pretty seasoned as a TV actor. It looks like.
Right.
She was on a bunch of Canadian like CanCon movies and TV.
Okay.
She was in Warm Bodies as Athletic Woman though.
Oh yes, my favorite part of that movie, Athletic Woman.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. We get like some like Pulp Fiction-y style titles when they come up on the screen to introduce them. Like we see like Kid Humble, and then he gets his little snapshot, and like Steven was saying earlier, it gives us a little insight into what their personality and their character is. So that's kind of nice. Their little like style and whatnot. But I do echo the sentiment that perhaps they missed the boat a little. Like it's wrestling, you should be over the top. There was just a little bit too much of a generic thing going on, even in the names. Like Kate the Great, it sounds uninspired to me. Enigma Jones just sounds like I put it through a random generator and came up with these names. Like I don't know. But
yeah, like what does Enigma have to do with, I guess because you don't know what
he's like
because he doesn't speak or whatever. I mean, it makes sense on paper, but it also it does sound like something an AI would come with. Like, Enigma Jones, he wears a mask. No one knows his thoughts because he doesn't speak.
Thing
Exactly.
It feels a little bit like a weird intersection of somebody who knows nothing about wrestling, but then there's stuff in the movie that's like you have to know about wrestling.
Where you do have to know about wrestling, the little Easter eggs for people who know wrestling. Yeah,
I mean it's written and directed by the same guy, so I think he probably does have at least a bit of a passion for wrestling, and if not, he had like a good team of people around him to be like throw in some lingo that makes sense for the realm of wrestling.
And also on the reverse, he probably had a team of people saying, dumb it down a bit for those who don't know wrestling that much, that might just see the movie and just kind of want to know what's going on. Right. Maybe they're the ones like, keep some of the names a little bit generic and
compare it to movies like The Wrestler or Iron Claw, where they they broaden it enough that people can watch the movies and they get the emotional conflict out of it, but then the stuff is in there for the super fans. This one, I don't think it did anything it did the horror part pretty good, I would say, and the Satan is Steve, the fact that you brought up the Satanic Panic element, since it's in 1988, that's when it was going on, or slightly after, pretty much still happening, that really lets me look at the movie through a new lens. Yeah, because now it kind of changes the whole vibe of the movie. It's almost like this movie is like 25 years too late or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of like a fun sort of like send up of just the whole idea of Satanic Panic, but like being like, but it's real. Like this is something that they would make with a shitty low budget in the 80s to make you panic about Satan, whereas this is like, wouldn't it be ridiculous if there was people who were like, wrestling is the devil's work, and this wrestler is like, he's channeling Satan through himself for his powers,
the prophet.
But then meanwhile they use words like kayfabe and dark match, and they do the thing that they do in every wrestling TV or movie show now, where they talk in the ring. They show how the sausage is made, basically.
The ropes and give me a DDT. Oh, yeah. Maybe if you buy me a chicken sandwich later. And they're just like having a bit of a conversation during it. It's always amazing.
And that's the first match that's sort of shown, like you said, Chris. They give everybody the the still image with the name at the bottom, but we get basically a full match between Kate the Great, Misbehave. They seem to not like each other in real life, and Misbehave clocks her, and seemingly by accident, but maybe not.
So this is addressed. They don't dislike each other in real life because they don't even fucking know each other in real life. That's like she says that, like, I don't hate her, I don't even fucking know her. Like,
that's right.
We barely met, kind of thing. She just has a momentary lapse in judgment and lets her emotions take over, which is she wants to have the title match. She wants to be seen as something more. But she's being kept down. And there's like a little bit sort of a mid-tone of like racism towards it, where it's like, Kate has a chance of getting a title, but unfortunately you don't. And like, you know why. And we don't really have to talk about why, but you know why, right?
Yeah.
You know why. And she's like, that's fucking bullshit. And you know, as an audience member, you're like, yeah, that is fucking bullshit because she's clearly a better wrestler. Like,
Yeah.
she should be the one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely
Especially where I keep
under-
forgetting that it's the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, good point. There's definitely that little undercurrent of like racism that does come up later on too when they're, you know, at the fist, like the barn or the
Yeah, or I when I was first watching it, I was like, am I misreading this? Because it almost feels like they're like that ain't right. Because and they assume like, oh, they're being racist, but then I'm like,
Right.
but are they just saying like it ain't right that like these two wrestlers shouldn't be in a relationship
Yeah,
together because they
keep
have
it
a performance?
ambiguous a little
Yeah, they
bit,
have to keep the kayfabe alive. You can't be
Yeah.
kissing and smooching here. We need
That's
to
right.
suspend our disbelief.
yeah.
Which it would be funnier if they made it into a joke like that, because I mean it is sort of like a serious moment, but it would also just kind of like make, because I thought this was supposed to be a dark comedy, but then that kind of gets sucked away pretty quickly. That there are funny moments in the movie, but overwhelmingly not a funny movie.
Overwhelmingly not
Yeah.
comedic. Yeah, you're right. That's true.
So
Yeah.
I feel like they maybe should have taken a little bit more risk when it comes to the joke telling, but I don't know. I think it works well as a horror movie, but I think it maybe would have worked a little bit better if they got a little more kooky with the dialogue. Because there's a couple of moments here and there that made me chuckle, but when you're like, you know, when
There's
you're
some-
following up a scene of someone almost getting partially decapitated with somebody being like, are you telling me his plan is to lock his two best friends in a closet and then just
Yeah.
like kill himself? And she's like, he's not your best friend.
Yeah.
like that's very funny, you know. But when that's your funniest line in the whole movie, you know, you have to kind of
The
like set your
funniest
expectations.
line in the whole movie is Jericho going, "Call me Diablos," and then the other guy goes, "I don't think so, David." And then there's just this weird, awkward pause. It's like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is going on?
That's
It's
true. Yeah.
amazing.
I don't think so, David.
Yeah.
It is such like a boring, like, you know, just sort of like milquetoast name too, right?
Yeah,
Like
David.
yeah.
It's
Like he
that's
sounds
so
like
perfect.
the nerd. Yeah.
But if you put all three of his names together, it's a pretty dope wrestling name. David Diablos Prophet.
Oh, that's pretty sick. Yeah. DDP. Love it.
Oh, shit. Bang.
Right? Yeah.
So after the match, Misbehave goes into the office where Rusty is there, and he's the worst. And she finds
He's
he
not
finds
actually
her
that bad
for-
though. If you like kind of like he's greasy, he's doing coke, and he's like being kind of a prick, but at the same time he's being reasonable and he's
Right.
telling her the truth, and he's not
Yeah.
trying to sugarcoat things, and he's not being overly an asshole towards her.
Yeah. He's got a business to run. And
Yeah.
He's, you know, he's,
Yeah.
he's got his side of things. He's not being, like you said, not overly like prickish. He's just
Yeah.
telling her how it is.
You can tell that there is like at least some sort of mutual respect. It might not be
Yeah.
overwhelmingly so, but it's like they at least have a relationship with one another that isn't terrible. You know,
Yeah,
like,
it's a
and-
working
and-
relationship. I mean, he could have
Yeah.
fired her. She just slugged this girl in his bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
In the middle of the ring, could have injured her. That's not how you do business. And he still gives her another chance. He understands her dilemma and her frustration about not being given this title shot and whatnot. So both
This is where
sides are, yeah.
this is where the race stuff is brought up too a little bit, because it's like Snow White and the Wicked Witch, and she's like, yeah,
Oh,
Snow
that's
White.
That's right.
And he's like, oh, or it's delusions of grandeur from concussions.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of real too.
That is true.
But then he's like, you know, either stay here and see it get real weird, or get out of here. And as soon as she's like, I'm out, and then he busts out the cocaine, as Steve mentioned.
Yeah. He's like,
Yeah,
love that.
well, been there.
Yeah.
We move over to this is where we find out that Mean Jolene and Misbehave are together in a relationship, sort of. This is
Yeah.
there's like a weird like rom-com storyline kind of woven
Yeah.
through this. Maybe not full rom-com, but definitely like a romance in a place that you don't see very often. In
Totally. And
It's
me,
like
Jolene. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's like super juvenile. Like it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a mature relationship that two
No.
adults are having. It feels like teenagers. But like it's also believable in the sense that like their whole lives don't seem like the lives of responsible adults. You know, like they're just kind
That's
of
true.
like in this. They're in this sort of like very weird, unique lifestyle where it's like we beat each other up by night. we fuck later that night. And then we have to go to a barn to wrestle for some private perverts on the weekend. Or whatever. Nothing about their lives is normal, you know?
That's true. And
they
Mean
do-
Jolene's never looked more hideous than he does in this scene here, where he's like leaning into kissing. You're like, oh god.
and it's such a like weird kiss. Like she's almost
Yeah.
like ugh.
She's like almost repelled by it, but like she's
Yeah.
supposed to like it. Like you can tell the actress is like, God, just take it, Jill, or whatever her real name is. But like it's just, oh dear God, this guy.
I had to do this scene 400 times, and that's why
Right.
what we get is her being like, "Oh no, if I don't want to I don't want to kiss Stephen Ogg anymore."
I
we
like
just-
Stephen Ogg. I think he's handsome.
So do I. Like, yeah, he's
No,
a
he's
good-looking guy, but if he's this close to your face and you've been
It was
kissing him
just
all day,
like something about that fucking angle he was in, or something. Just like, damn.
It is the angle is very weird. It's overwhelming because he has her almost in a wrestling move. Like he's like
Yeah,
he's
that's
got her in
right.
some sort of lock. You know, like,
leg lock. Or something.
you're not allowed to leave till you let me smooch your shoulder.
Fuck. Ah.
But
Anyway.
we also it's revealed here that like they're in a secret relationship that nobody knows about, but it's also then made clear to us that like Stephen Ogg's character is sort of obsessed with his heyday, right? Like he sees himself on the TV
Right.
and he can barely pull his eyeballs away from it.
and he's wrestling who would turn out to be Prophet. I like when they get to the barn later and they're like, "That guy looks familiar," and it's like it's obviously him. But I guess if you
It's
think about it
crazy
in where
dark
we
lighting
know-
and they're all on drugs
Yeah.
and
That's
booze.
true.
Yeah.
we also all know who Chris Jericho is. I think is the hurdle.
I
that
didn't. I
trying
was
to
like,
get
"Who is
over.
that? Is that Triple H or some shit?"
Hey,
That's
he kind
what
of
I
does
said.
look like Triple H in a way. But yeah, Jericho is in the movie, and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
They had to
just
get a true wrestler for this
Yeah.
role. If they didn't, it would have been, it would have been not as fun.
Inauthentic.
Yeah. It's
I
like
wanna-
getting, like Roddy Piper or whatever. Like you need to get him and stuff for certain things. Like,
Yeah.
but we live in an unfortunate era now where like the only wrestler that really gets stuff is either The Rock or what's his name? You Can't See Me. I forgot his
John
name because
Cena.
I've never been able to.
Yeah.
I can't read it. Every time I try and read it, his name just isn't on the page or whatever.
Yeah. Disappears like
I
him.
understand that reference.
Invisible ink.
Yeah.
And then the ones that that try to be in like serious stuff end up being taken just as like non-seriously as the others. Like you look at Batista and like all the
Mhm.
great work that he's done,
Mhm.
but he's still not given the chance beyond people with vision. Like
Right.
you see something like Shyamalan or Deluve or in Dune or whatever, like they cast him in Dune and it's like he's like obviously they're casting him for his physicality, but at the same time it's like, oh, he's proven himself over and over and over again that he is like a pretty decent actor.
You
And,
can
like,
deliver a line without it being like, I don't know, kind of like without him stumbling or without it being unbelievable.
yeah,
Even Drax should just be a dumb meathead and
Yeah.
still has like this comedy layer. To
but I
him
think
that
that Drax is like the
feels the
worst
same.
example because it's like
True.
everybody thinks of Drax now when they look at Batista, and it's
Right.
I think it's going to be the one thing that is sort of like a ball and chain weighing his career down forever is like he was Drax and people are thinking of him as Drax and not thinking of his role in like Knock at the Cabin where he was like
Yeah.
doing extensive monologues and like
Yeah.
very touching and you're like this character is like making me feel 10 different emotions at once. Amazing. But also remember that time that Drax said that funny fucking thing.
Exactly. It's nice
He
when they're
stood
not
really still.
typecast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say about Chris Jericho.
Terrible
It-
actor.
no.
I'm just kidding.
Well, no, you're not wrong.
He was
And
okay.
Chris
He was all right. No, he was
Chris
all right. He wasn't
Jericho-
terrible.
has been famously been trying to. I know he's got Fozzy and he's got his music career, also not great, but storied at this point. He's been trying to be
Hold
an
on, what's
actor.
Fozzy?
This Fozzy is his rock band
Oh,
that's been
okay.
around since like
For
2000.
a moment, I was like, "What?" And I was like, Does he do the voice of Fozzie on the new Muppet movies and shit or something? That would be crazy."
No, he's in a band that's released several albums, and he used to, when he was in WWE, like exclusively, he would leave for time to go tour, and then he would come make a big comeback with a new gimmick. But he has been, it's storied that he has been trying to have an acting career this whole time for the last 25 years, and every time he gets up to the plate he fumbles.
Yeah.
And he actually had this sitcom called But I'm Chris Jericho. We would have seen it on, I think it was on just on Showcase, not even like they took it from somewhere and put it on Showcase.
Right.
It was a Showcase show, and it was a sitcom that was kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm, about him trying to get acting gigs. He was a working
Very
actor in the show.
Show, yeah.
Yeah. So
The ironic part is that like he goes in and like his acting when he's trying to like do auditions in the show
Is
is like better
bad.
than his acting like
Oh,
in
yeah,
between
yeah.
when he's like actually and you're like, this is terrible. The thing is, like a lot of these actors though, they like refuse to get acting lessons or like to take them, you know, like they'll be like, no, my on-stage presence alone proves that I can act. And it's like, no, you know how to yell into a microphone and get a crowd hyped up. That's not the same thing as acting. Like you need to be able to express emotion.
that's why a lot of wrestlers who are great become great. They go take, like the Miz, John Cena, Batista, when they were wrestling, they all went and took acting lessons, and it elevated them.
Yeah.
I wish that people who are wrestlers first and think they just have it would go and do that for actual acting.
Yeah.
Because The Rock just figured out how to act by being in 100 movies.
Oh, okay. He figured when did that happen? Because I
don't know. He
I've
just
seen
plays
all
the
his
same
movies
role.
and I
I'm
still don't see any
waiting for,
evidence
like,
of it.
yeah. But
He figured out to be The
how-
Rock in films.
Yeah.
He developed a persona that works really well in cinema, but like is there a moment in the Rock movie where your heart is warmed by the Rock's
there's no
performance? I don't
dimension.
think
Let's
so.
be honest. There's no dimension to the Rock's characters. Like, that's not to say he can't act. He's just good at what he does.
Yeah, and
which
that's not-
is
that's not-
screaming and like being funny, yelling into a microphone, like insulting someone, hyping a match.
Yeah,
But if you
or
put
being
him
like
in-
intimidating or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
the same thing.
It's not the same.
And that's also not to say that like lots of his movies are not uberly entertaining. There's a reason that like they're still being made to this day. You know, like there's a few of his early films that I'm like, love it, love Walking Tall or whatever that movie
Well,
is.
he's such a presence, right? Like he's so larger than life that you put him in front of a screen, you're just naturally like your eyes want to follow him. You want to hear what he's saying. He's commanding, and a lot of people can gloss over the fact that he's not very good, especially if you pair that with an action movie, which typically don't need, these like De Niro type performances. You just be like, get down, and like that's about it. So.
It's
Put
like
him
when
in
you're
the
acting
Fast
against
series.
Vin Diesel. It's like
Right.
exactly.
Everyone looks good. So it's
People are like, wow, Vin Diesel's a really good actor, but it's just because he's acting against The Rock.
Oh man.
Listen, Hobbs and Shaw is a pretty good movie, but then again, Jason Statham is like a pretty legitimate actor.
Yeah.
In that realm, anyway.
Yeah, Jason Statham is just doing his, like, sit down, have a drink.
Sit down, have a drink. I'm the beekeeper.
Yeah.
I'll keep
right.
these bees. These bees, I'm a keeper of these bees.
Yeah.
So Rusty Beans gets a call. Seems like he's been getting calls from somewhere, from somebody trying to get the services of the SAW to come. He wants to bring them to Shellbrook, which is probably a real place in Alberta where this movie takes place. And 50K is the number that is offered.
I mean, that's a
in
magic number
this
for
weekend.
me. If somebody offers me 50 to K to do something, I'm like, how much nudity is involved?
Yeah. And then to turn around and be like he's going to take all that money and then give a percentage, 15% of the gate to the wrestlers. So he's just going to put 50K up his nose in 1989 if he survives this ordeal.
Oh, he believes that he's going to be rich. He's like, we're going to be so fucking rich. It's like that The Office thing where they offer him 60 grand. He's like, we're going to be so rich. It's like 60 grand is not a lot.
No.
Even in 1988 dollars, that's not a lot.
And then there's another element of this movie.
I think he's having audio.
I'm having a little trouble here. I'm just gonna be 1 second. I have to go out and come back in.
Okay.
Something's happening.
An element that I wish that they had expanded on a little bit more is Misbehave seems to be having these
I
like
think we scared him away because we did double Jason Statham impressions at the same time at him.
The beehive. We're here in the beehive and we're keeping our bees.
Sorry about
Hello.
that.
It's okay.
Our bees.
We thought that maybe we scared you away because we both did a Jason Statham impression at the same time.
No,
and you're
no.
like, I can't handle
Someone-
this. Gotta go.
I had my notifications on, and someone tried to like call me,
Yeah.
and then when I close it, it kept playing the body of the episode for some reason over and over in my ear. I was like, this isn't stopping.
so the body of the episode is what scared you away.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is just
weird.
my voice. I know it's
on
me.
loop.
Yeah. That's what I play on loop at night. It's like a white noise machine.
Yeah, I get you pumped up for the next
Yeah.
episode.
The body of the episode.
I love that.
But the element that I wish they had explored a little bit more, because it reminds me of like a Nightmare on Elm Street or something. But she keeps having like premonitionary dreams
Mhm.
of what's to come, and they're shot really cool and they're like flashy. They're flashes of horror and stuff. And I wish that when I saw the first one, I was like, oh, is this what this movie's gonna have in it? Where she can like, but no, they just sort of squander that a bit.
That was
because-
weird, right? Like I also saw that as like a missed opportunity, and or why did you put it in? Because like she's got
There-
some sort of sense where she can.
There's like some sort of implication in this movie that she is connected to the dark side or whatever, like the demon world. And then she's able to see it, that it's going to happen. She's getting premonitions, but she's also being attacked by the demon constantly throughout the dreams.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so she's going to have to fight this demon, which ultimately I guess is what happens, but we don't get to see it, which is kind of
Yeah.
shit. But at the same time, I get it. Like, what are they going to do? That thing would have ripped her arms off immediately.
Yeah. She's done real fast.
The sequel to this movie is just immediately cuts to a highway with a bunch of shredded Stephen Ogg pieces and a
It's
bunch
this
of
demon
powdered
wreaking
cocaine
havoc.
everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But
the demon's on the loose.
she's woken up. She's woken up by Rusty Beans calling her, and then
And I also say I hate the name Rusty Beans so fucking much. Like, it grosses me out.
Right.
as soon
what it
as I
makes me-
heard it, I was like, really?
What it makes me think of is somebody who is so bad at taking a shit that every time they do it, they somehow get it on their own balls. That's what the name Rusty Beans makes me think of.
Shit. He does look like that kind of guy too. So maybe they
Like, God
nailed
damn it, not again.
Yeah. God, and he just puts his underwear on anyway.
Yeah. I need to stop. He doesn't wipe or anything. I need
Yeah.
to stop doing cocaine while on the toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
You can
Yeah.
do it off the toilet, but not while on the toilet.
Yeah.
That doesn't make
And
any
definitely not off the seat of the toilet. Off the back, off the back of the toilet, maybe, but not off
He's
the
definitely
seat.
like a Blumpkin kind of guy, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
sense. Yeah. And don't have
Everything
games
on the
for-
toilet.
Yeah. He prefers a country Blumpkin though, because it's the sound of crickets and the warm summer breeze.
Be a great
in
gimmick for
100
him.
178 episodes, that might be the first time a Blumpkin has been mentioned.
Yeah, I had it in my claws, no Blumpkin talk. But
Yeah.
I think it's
Very
been
sorry.
expunged at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that at 11 minutes and 30 seconds,
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
just full on says dark match.
Yeah.
He says, how much for a dark match? And I was just like,
Yeah.
You always got to take a
Yeah.
shot when the name of the movie is said, for sure.
Me and Danny were trying to speculate what a dark match meant.
Mm.
And we didn't know, because like I was like, I'm gonna if they don't explain it to us at some point in the movie, I'm gonna have to ask these guys, but they did sort of explain it, or at least I figured it out otherwise.
Yeah.
But we are like, what was it? What is it gonna be? And then Danny was like, maybe it's a match, but there's no fucking rules, and they can actually break each other's bones. And I was like, whoa.
that's actually called a lights out match.
Okay.
So
Mine was
On the
like
right
maybe it's a match where all the lights are off. It's just
Yeah, well, that
so
would make
dark.
most sense.
But
Yeah.
no one would see it. You just hear noises like
They're just stamping on the ring. Yeah.
the technical meaning of a dark match is essentially you go to see Monday Night Raw. Okay.
No cameras.
And oh, okay. Well, you knew exactly. what it was.
It says it in the movie. I figured it out when she's like, "It's not a dark match. I saw cameras out there." I'm like, "Oh, a dark match means that no one can see it outside of whoever's at the
Yeah,
arena,
yeah.
basically." Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark.
And they're typically just to expand on that, because I do feel like talking about it. What'll have if you go to see?
I just
Monday
didn't want you
Night
to go into
Raw-
a 5-minute explanation when you could have just
I
said
won't.
no cameras.
Thank you. No, you. Thank you for shutting me down on that. But I do want to say that if you go see Monday Night Raw, what'll end up happening, because they need to like get you hyped for next week. A lot of the times, the heel will stand tall. The bad guy will be standing tall at the end of the show. But since it is a wrestling show, the good guy always has to send the crowd home happy. So a bunch of the wrestlers, maybe they weren't featured on the show, or maybe they were. They do usually a tag team match, good guys versus bad guys. The good guys win, send the kids home happy.
Yeah, that's a
Essentially,
good point. That's a good point. You're not getting the full show when you watch on TV. And as Jason said, like even if it's a run-in, the good guy will run in, beat up the heel, throw him out, and then celebrate, so everyone goes home happy.
Or like nowadays, CM Punk will just come out, and he used to do this in his AEW run, where at the end of the show, when the cameras go off, CM Punk would just come out and like cut a promo.
Yeah.
Be like, "Hey guys, thanks for coming out tonight. I'm a good
Totally.
guy. Everybody loves me." And CM Punk, everybody's happy, and they got that friction going on, and they're got the goosebumps.
I also decided that my wrestling name would be Continuity Arrow if I had to be
Continuity Arrow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Instead of Continuity Error, and I would be like a Robin Hood looking guy, and I would just
That's cool.
I would do a lot of high flying trickery.
Robin
Doing
Hood kind of
people
guy,
like-
but like in a cyberpunk kind of way.
Yeah, like a futuristic
Yeah.
Robin Hood. Yeah.
That's kind of sick.
And commentary could always be talking about where the arrow was last.
Right.
When we shoots the arrow wherever it ended up, they'd really talk about where the arrow was last.
There'd be
so
like
the
a little
continuity
moment
stands.
where the announcer would be like, "We're going to the wrestling, the back room to talk to the wrestlers now," and then they go in there and like everyone's already beaten up, and he's like, "What the hell?" And the door slowly closes, and there's an arrow with like an old timey scroll. on it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
I just described
Mine.
the opening to Hook.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie in forever. Hope it's a good one.
Hey, go back and watch our episode on it, and also watch
will.
the movie.
It's a good one.
So the Wrestle Squad gets ready to go. Miss I keep having her as Miss in my notes. Her name is Nick also, but
Yeah.
Miss Behave apologizes to Kate, and they kind of seem okay. And I think this is where it's sort of like they don't really know each other. She mentions that in the meeting with Beans earlier.
Yeah.
And here's something that I noticed in the background. They're just bullying Enigma, and I thought that was going to lead to something. I don't know if that was like a
Oh, I thought-
foreshadow.
See, I thought they were just fucking around. Like
Yeah,
they were
me
like,
too.
like
Okay.
practicing or whatever. Like I assume this is how I assume wrestlers act. Like they
Yeah.
pick each other up and stuff. And
You're not
Yeah.
wrong.
They're jockish. They're just-
what? But what? I'm not wrong. But
You're correct.
Okay.
That's how they act. Yeah. We were having a talk about the phrase "you're not wrong" before the show. That was a callback. But Rusty's driving the heels, and or so we think. But Kate is in there with them, and they have a conversation about it, which is sort of nowadays it doesn't matter, but back then it did matter, because if they stopped at a rest stop and a face got out of the truck with the heels, this used to happen all the time, like for real in the 80s, where heels and faces would just ride together, and then they would get in a lot of trouble because they would pull into like a rest stop, and some kid would see them, and it would destroy the kid's world.
Mhm.
yeah,
So-
it's like when somebody takes off their Donald Duck hat and it smokes a cigarette or whatever, and some
Yeah,
kid's like,
yeah.
"Oh my god!"
It is kind of actually like that. It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you know,
There's-
the whole illusion is just crumbled in front of you. It's like, wait a minute, they're supposed to be bitter rivals, and now they're like sharing a taco on the side of the road. What's going on here?
Yeah,
So I like that wrestling used to be like that. That's how, even if you know that it's, you know, scripted, it should still try its best to maintain that level of like authenticity. You know, like I still don't want to see a heel and a face, so to speak, like hanging out behind the scenes. for
I saw
whatever reason.
something that broke my world a little bit as a fully grown adult, a 40-year-old man. So John Cena's still doing Make-A-Wish as like,
Yeah.
even though he's a heel on TV.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of him smiling with his arm around a person who got to meet him after the show in London last week, and then people talking about it like, what the fuck? And it's like, no, he outside of this, it's kind of like The Rock is like this too.
Yeah,
they're just people, and they're just like, I'm a person. You're what you see me as a deceitful heel on the screen, but I'm still gonna like go talk to the kids and be nice to them.
Yeah.
What are you, fucking monster?
No, for sure. That's definitely a different story. And
But
it's impossible to hide now with cameras everywhere, and people have satellites in their pockets. But in the 80s, that's totally doable. I mean, if all you had to do was not drive with someone, then do it. That's great.
Yeah. So Misbehave falls asleep. She has another dream about being in the ring. When she's woken up this time, and I think her dreams are more a connection to her wanting to get the belt.
Yeah. But, I mean, as Steven said, like, there are some demonic connections there. Like, she has like claw hands, and like, there's definitely some demonic imagery happening as well.
She touches the belt at one point, it burns her hands.
It is very much like premonition, because like the belt gets really hot because the belt in the end is in the burning building, and like it's all stuff that like it does lead to it leads to something. It's not just there, and it's not vague. It's very much meant to be like evocative of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is when I started to be like, what is going on? Like, this is not, I don't think this is a slasher movie. Like, I think this is setting up something else, especially because I already started to like piece it together when he's watching the match on the television, and he goes into that sort of super wordy explanation of who Chris Jericho's character was. I'm like, okay, he's going to be the slasher probably, right? He's going to show up as the slasher.
Yeah.
But then when it starts to go beyond that, it's like he's got a super religious cult following, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is different than what I thought it was going to be. And I started to get a little bit excited, because I'm like, my whole expectation and my perception of what this movie is going to be is now shifted slightly. And now I'm more interested than I was before. Like, I was still kind of interested, because I'm like, what's the murderer going to look like? I'm excited to see what kind of Jason Voorhees they've cooked up for this movie. Yeah. But now I'm like, oh, it's going to be almost like an early D&D campaign where these guys go into like a cult area and have to fight cultists.
That's true. It kind of did feel like a weird D&D scenario.
This is how like almost like every one of my D&D campaigns that I start is like it always almost ends up being like a cult, because then you can just have weak little cultists that are humans to get the shit kicked out of them.
Yeah,
and then
you
eventually
have
fight
fodder.
a demon.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't want to make any assumptions about Chris here, but I think he might like tabletop games. So
I was going to say, are you in a board game cafe right now?
Yeah. I'm broadcasting live from Snakes and Lattes. Shut up! Yeah, everything's going fine. Yeah. Play your games and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a podcast over here.
I did think it was interesting. The scene kind of had a weird resolution where she gets woken up to the van being broken down, and then they just fix it and keep going, just to have that conversation.
Oh yeah,
with
I
Joe.
It wasn't really necessary, but I think it's also meant to like put in the next nail in the coffin, to be like, they're too far away to get help at this
That's
point.
what I was about to say. Like it actually does kind of establish that they're on a long trip. They mentioned, man, I wouldn't have gone on a joyride on this piece of trash, this crappy car they're in. They've gone a long way. It's a rural area. No one knows where the fuck they are. It's cold. They're kind of getting grumpy, I liked it. And it, of course, gives them the chance to have their little conversation, which makes sense.
Yeah, and also that sort of bump in the road that they go through tells us that they're like they arrive hours after their friends or whatever, right? Like when they do finally get there, the lady's like, they've been here for hours.
Yeah, there's a party going on and shit. It's like,
but they also like they do it. It is like they're like, I don't know if the audience realizes how far in the middle of nowhere they are. We really need to hammer it home, because they drive past a sign that says like, warning, next rest stop isn't for 234 miles. And you're like, that's crazy. That's a long distance without a rest stop.
That sucks.
And then they break down. So it's like, oh, they have to do it themselves. And then, it's all just kind of built up to be like, they are as far away from you can like from civilization as you can be, sort of thing. The literal middle of nowhere.
Definitely.
And then when they get there, they're greeted by the most plastic smiled woman ever. And she's like, it's not a hotel. You're gonna have your own cabins, and they're taken to like a weird, like, I don't know. It looks like a motel, but it's like cabins in a building.
Yeah, it
Rusty
feels like
says they were-
like the Canadian Manson compound or something, you know, like
yeah.
It's also a great name for a villainous faction. That'd be
the Canadian Mansons.
The Canadian Manson compound is the name of my new punk album for sure. Punk band, pardon me.
The punk album works too.
Yeah, that's true.
By the Mansons. Rusty also says that he's going to give a part of the gate to them, but it totally seems like a lie because at this point, we learn much later in the movie, but at this point, he's selling their souls as sacrifice to these weird
Yeah,
cultists.
I don't think that it was a lie. I think that it was that he knew that he was getting 50K, but he wasn't sure if they were actually going to give him 50K or not. So he was like, I'm going to give you 15K maybe of the door.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 15% of the door. And I don't think that he was lying there. I think that he was just trying to kind of bolster their spirits a little bit, while also trying to calculate in his mind how much of 50K he could give them without it being like a real kick in his nuts. You know, he's like, 15%. I was thinking, you know.
Yeah, he's like the right kind of sleazy, you know, like he does care about his wrestlers and his, you know, his people.
But he also loves his cocaine more.
He loves his cocaine. He needs money to buy the cocaine. Thus, he needs money. Yeah.
Listen, have I hoodwinked a few people to get cocaine?
Maybe.
We'll never tell.
Yeah.
Also, nothing else. I'm not going to say anything else about that because yes, I definitely did. So they get there. They go to a party that night.
Yeah.
Interesting that they got
right
a
next
Kiss
to the
song.
Canadian Manson compound is Jason's cocaine compound.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And I have several tigers, and I'm never going to financially recover from this.
Fuck.
But it's interesting they got a Kiss song for this because the budget of this movie is so low. And
was
Gene Simmons, it was shout it, shout it out loud.
Yeah.
Blew my mind. I thought it was going to be a style parody. It started playing, and I'm like, that's Kiss. And then they hit the chorus, and I was like, wow, they probably
they didn't even use cover
$10,000.
Yeah,
even use
Jericho's fucking power play. He's like, we need to get some down and dirty, like 70s rock. Like,
You're probably
Ozzy
right.
can pull some strings here.
Because Jericho probably knows Gene Simmons. They've probably toured together.
Yeah.
They've probably been in a
Also-
couple of orgies together.
Totally.
They've probably done cocaine off each other's boners.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Jason, you need to stop talking. We're going to get demonetized.
I don't care. We're not making any money, so
I mean,
yet.
Sorry,
maybe
Chris,
they'll
we
start
can't pay.
charging us. They'll be like, if you want to keep this
Yeah.
video off, we're going to lose money on this one.
That's amazing. But yeah, I wouldn't put it past him pulling some strings for a little bit of licensing.
he would have also been he's fully in AEW when this movie starts to get produced too. So I'm sure that when he signed
He's
on, he was
still
like,
wrestling?
"Oh yeah, every week
Unfortunately, my
against his better judgment." Somehow he's become
He's
the
got
most
old
annoying
man
part.
face in this. where
Yeah,
I'm like,
buddy.
He does.
You know when like you get sold that your eyebrows start falling out?
His
He's got
chest
that
is
going
like
on.
inverted. The thing about Chris Jericho that's interesting is I love Chris Jericho. I always say he's kind of a Ric Flair in that like he's got this longevity. He's a safe worker, but he's got this problem now where he's doing this character that clearly he loves and nobody else does. And Jericho's known for reinventing himself. He's
Sure.
never had a real miss. But
Yeah.
this learning tree bullshit that he's been doing in AEW, that's sort of a gimmick to stick it to the internet haters
Yeah.
as collateral damage to his genuine fans who are like, what are you doing? I don't want to watch.
What is this? I don't want you to go into like a long. Just give me the
It's called the
elevator
learning
pitch.
tree.
I know, but
It's
give me
the-
the elevator pitch.
He's got two guys with him, and they love him. They praise him. There is like heaters, and he's the learning tree, and he basically comes out and he's like, "Hi guys, hi everybody. Listen, this week I'm going to tell you about the fundamentals of grappling." And
Oh,
it's
so he's doing
annoying.
like a
He's
Tony
the
Robbins or
wise
something.
old mentor that like
Yeah.
Right.
he's passing down.
That's
his
kind of funny
wisdom.
though. I kind of like that
Yeah.
idea of that. That's, I mean, maybe on paper it's better than it is in the ring, but like,
Definitely.
Well,
I think the
I
idea of that
do
is
like
pretty
the
funny.
idea too. He just shouldn't wrestle anymore. If he was just like a manager and kind of a mentor,
Right.
that's his perfect role. He's still in the wrestling world. He's still on TV. He's a great speaker. He's cuts fantastic promos. He's Chris Jericho. He's like a living legend, so to speak. But he doesn't need to wrestle. He's slow. He looks old. He moves old. He probably smells.
moves old and
Yeah.
stinks
Definitely
like an
smells like
oldie.
definitely smells like whiskey and mung beans.
Yeah.
Mung beans.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just his time is gone, and
Yeah.
people we're slowly letting him know that through the internet and through just like, just verbally. And it got to the point where the fans are chanting for him to retire. And when it gets to that point, it's like, man, not only are you too late, now you've drawn the wrath of like the live crowd. That's pretty embarrassing.
As somebody that could,
He should come out dressed
always-
as like a Greek dad, like in a full like windbreaker outfit, and just and be like, like have a whiteboard, be like, when you want to do this, you want to do this, like that would be funny. And then someone beats him down with the
Beat him
whiteboard.
down, and
Yeah.
you don't need to wrestle. Just do that funny shit. It'd be great.
No, he does a segment with a literal cardboard tree and then just tells the audience they suck. So that's good heel stuff, but it's like Chris Jericho's known for reinventing himself, and he's been doing this now for a year, and people want something new from him.
Yeah.
And I think my personal theory is that he's been doing this like go away heat thing to lower his stock, so he'll be pushed out of AEW. Like Tony Khan's like, okay, you can move on now, and then he'll go back to WWE, do one final run with one new a new character he's been cooking up, and then go into the Hall of Fame, and then like you said, Chris, sort of go into a managerial role, or he
It'd be
wrestles
great
once
if he
a
came
year.
back and like the learning tree had like evolved from like what it is to like an L. Ron Hubbard level like Scientology following, where he
That'd be
has
cool.
like a crazy fucking following of like
He almost takes
super
a-
devout people. Yeah.
Yeah, almost like his character in this movie. And he
Exactly,
kind of,
yeah. Except he's like,
parlays it into-
and then the aliens will come down and take us all back.
Yeah, it's
to
not
heaven."
demons, it's aliens. That'd be cool. I'd get on board. Got his little
Yeah.
faction.
Mhm.
Jericho Manson compound.
A bunch of like new call ups, like a bunch of NXT guys. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But this party
Yeah.
that they're at is a drug fueled orgy, essentially.
Sure as fuck is.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of a Friday the 13th setup. I know their parties aren't as drug fueled, but it was kind of like the group gets to a party and like hijinks are going to happen. I'm still on board for slasher happening
See,
while watching.
as soon as I saw male nudity, I was like, someone's gonna die soon. But then,
And I hope it's me.
yeah, you see it. You see a wiener before you see breasts. And I
Yeah,
was like,
that's
"All
always
right."
a red flag. But
I mean, I was down. I am like all for the resurgence of the wiener as a joke.
No,
I feel
for
like
sure.
I feel like we don't get enough of it these days, but there are
Yeah.
those few and far between in terms of creatives that are taking the chance to be like, a dong goes here, right? Everybody will love it. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right.
It is shocking, and it's like, okay, this is a fucking party.
And the lighting in the
Sausage
scene is
fest.
so weird that I'm like, what is that? What is on that guy's waist? I'm like, oh, that's his dick. Because it's like it's like bouncing around.
That guy's waist. I didn't even catch the dick. That's
It was-
incredible. You got dick
Me
vision.
and
Hawkeye
Danny
dick
were both
vision.
like, was that a dick? And then we were both like, it was a dick. It was because Danny was like, I thought he just had like a weird dangly thing on his pants. I'm like, no, that was his wiener. Yeah.
This is also, as we talked about earlier at some point, this is when this like group of like 5 haggard like assholes kind of are judging the relationship between Mean Jolene and Mick, and they're like kind of giving them the side eye, and it's like you feel that racial tension a little bit, and you're not sure, is it a race thing, or is it like, hey, these are 2 wrestlers, they shouldn't be seen like flirting or
Smooching,
being smooching at outside of their work. But
I think
that
it was
interesting.
definitely meant to be racism, but it was like,
Yeah.
like I said, it would have almost been more charming if the movie like turned the tables and was like, no, we don't care that you 2 are together. We care that you 2 wrestlers are
Right.
together. You know, like what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. I did think there was a part here that stood out to me, maybe in a negative way. There was a line where, and I wrote it down. He said, I think Mean Joe says, I can't believe they're not approving of this. Come on, like it's almost the 90s.
Yeah.
I felt that was weird. It was almost like that makes the movie feel like it was filmed after
Yeah.
the time that it's supposed to
You know
be.
that it was filmed in 2022.
Yeah. Like he would have said it's
I'll be right
not
back.
the 50s anymore or something.
Yeah.
Like,
I
I
was trying to think of like in times in my life, have I ever said like, "Come on, guys, it's almost 2010 over here. You can't be thinking this way."
It was like no one has ever said that.
Guys,
So
we
it's like,
need to stop calling each other gay. It's almost 2015 over
yeah,
here.
it's
What are we
almost
living in the dark ages?
20s, man. Like
Yeah.
what? Yeah, that was pretty silly.
I'm sure
But-
people do say that though. Like as
Sure.
far as I went back in my memory banks to try and figure out if I had ever said something like it's almost 2020. You need to get
Listen,
over
guys,
yourself.
it's the
Dad."
20s now. We can get through.
Yeah.
We can get past this racial indignation.
Yes, that's fair.
But no, we're not even talking about that, Jason. We're just talking about the idea of somebody saying,
Oh no, the
"It's
movie
all
I'm from
90."
right now is from 2047.
What's that?
Oh, you're trying to say it's almost the 50s?
No,
Oh,
in the
I see.
future, I'm just responding. to what you
I'm
guys were
person
saying.
and leave.
I
it
am
there.
person.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
I feel like that is something an old person would say. Like an old
Right,
person would
that's
be
true.
like, it's almost 2020. It's almost 2030. We cannot be marrying
Yeah.
robots yet.
Yeah,
Save that for
yeah.
2040.
What's the over under on a person marrying a robot? People have been marrying
Oh,
themselves.
buddy,
here and
that's
there.
gonna happen big time. But
Almost
you say, like,
immediately.
when or like?
Yeah. Judging by like the comments I've been getting on my newest illustration, I feel like people already want to marry Chat GTP or whatever the fuck it's called.
Chad
What?
GPT.
Why is Mr. Christopher here?
Oh, my God.
Hello. Hello.
A
I
new
heard you boys
human
talking
being.
about a dark match.
Oh, have you seen?
Did you
Dark
see
Knight?
Dark Match?
No, I've seen the trailer for Dark Match. I've seen Stephen Ogg show the trailer for Dark Match. I've just popped in just because I thought I could real quick to say hello.
What is this
I'm over on
character?
Live Long and Podcast. We're talking about Star Trek and fiddly-dee, and all that good stuff. And I saw you. I'm waiting to go on to another thing, and I saw you were still online, so I thought, hey,
This is the first
I'm just gonna pop
instance
in
of
and be
having
like,
two
hey.
Chris's.
Yes.
They did you see this one at the same time?
Chris, I'm seeing double here. 4 Chris's.
Are you also a Christopher?
I am indeed.
Oh, fantastic name. Fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I don't understand this character.
I didn't mean to disrail your conversation about wrestling. I just wanted to come in and say hello.
Well,
I'm
I
gonna
got
leave
a
now.
question before you leave. Have you ever, like in 2008, did you ever go, man, it's almost 2010. I can't believe people are still thinking this way. Or, man, it's almost 2020. I can't believe people are still thinking this way. Did you ever say something like that in your life?
Yeah, 1999.
You said it's
I was
almost
like,
like it's almost the new
2000.
I
millennium.
can't believe people are still thinking this way. Pineapple on pizza is a thing and it should be enjoyed. Why is there so much hate?
You know what? That's true. That is true.
All right, I'm gonna go. Have fun.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Ah!
That was great.
A run-in from Mr. Christopher.
Mr.
The crowd goes mild.
Stay tuned for our podcast coming down the pipe called Tag the Turnbuckle, where we're gonna do a pilot episode after WrestleMania, and it's gonna be called Tag the Turnbuckle. So, Chris, you might be recruited multiple times for that.
Love it. Please. Sorry,
So-
can you quickly give me what the premise for Tag the Turnbuckle is again? I lost the
It's-
hearing.
It's the turn. Well, we're just gonna do it after WrestleMania. It's gonna be probably a
Oh, after
rundown.
WrestleMania. Got it.
It's gonna be a rundown of WrestleMania, but we're gonna add segments as we go.
Cool.
We have a couple things in mind, but I think a fun segment would be make Steve watch one wrestling match and then come in and describe what he witnessed.
Yes.
But make it fucked up, like do the Taipei death match, which is represented.
It's like
in
an
this
out
movie.
of context flair kind of thing. Like he has no idea what led to the match, what happens after, but just watch
Show
this
him
match in
John
a vacuum.
Cena versus JBL or
No,
Eddie
never-
Guerrero versus JBL.
I mean,
Bloodbath.
I can try. I don't know any of the names of anything, so I'll be like, oh, he's doing a flying knee jab right in the kisser.
Yeah.
Kinshasa is what that movie's called.
Yeah.
That's true.
The thing is that I won't, even if you tell me right after I say it, I will not retain the information. Like, I have so much storage in my brain, and it's all very precious to me. If I do too much, I might forget how to like use a fork or something. Like, can't.
It's part of the fun.
It pushes other information out.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this is also in the party, I believe, is like when we see Jericho as the cult leader for like the first time.
Not quite yet. There is a little thing where we meet. I think his name's Spencer. Misbehave
Okay.
is like looking around. I called him Tall Guy through all of my notes, but I just looked up who he is. I think his name's Spencer. He's like the number 2. He kind of looks like a
the
Nazi.
right hand man. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's on the way to the bathroom. I was like, I think the liquor might have something weird in it or be drugs or something. And here comes Jericho, like you said. He's standing above everybody, is like, welcome to the party, basically. And he's like it turns out this is like a weird Jesus-y cult sort of situation. And I thought Jericho's performance in this moment was actually pretty good.
Yeah. He fits it well. He looks the part. Like it makes, I could see it. You know, he's got like a bit of like a backwater look to him there. He's got the cowboy hat on. He's like, long-haired, hippie-ish. And all he has to do is say like, "Welcome, my friends,"
My
or like
children, or
"Lupa Cabre" or whatever it's called. And
The
what's that called?
I wanted to mention one thing, which is like this is obviously meant to be a gag as they're coming through this place just to see all the wild, crazy shit that these cultists are doing. But then their buddy, this hairspray guy, is in the hot tub, and he just has like 2 women like spraying his hair constantly, like nonstop. And I'm like, this is meant to be like, this is cartoonish, right? Like this is a cartoonishly humorous moment that you would see in like a Rick and Morty or something, right? Like we've established that he loves getting his hair sprayed, but like consistently, like you get enough drugs in this guy and he's like, more spray. Just hit me with this spray.
And I feel like hairspray is something that would make you really nauseous or like high or like knock you out if you're just inhaling that
Like
too
seal
much.
your eyelids shut.
Yeah, that shit.
Yeah.
Like it's very sticky in the air around you. If you never had hairspray in your hair.
Yeah.
Maybe he just has stage hairspray that he uses and he just loves the smell of it or something. Or he's trying to stay in character to make all these weirdos like him. Or he's like, yeah,
That's true.
I want you all to be comfortable around me. Hit me with the spray as much as you want.
Yeah. Also, Joe is totally like, no way, because he looks up and sees Jericho. And
Yeah, Joe recognizes Jericho at this point.
he starts being all drugged up.
I think out of everybody in his like crew or whatever, the only guy that would like recognize him in the same way that he does is I assume Hairspray Man, because he's like the other oldest one, right? Whereas everybody's a little bit younger, and like when he disappeared, that was like, I think chronologically in the movie it was like 6 years earlier is the last time anybody saw him. Yeah. So there's a good chance that most of the other wrestlers either don't remember him that well, or at least have as much of an intimate relationship as Stephen Ogg's character does with him. So he's like the only one that like has that sort of like, man, the last time I saw this guy, shit kicked him because he wouldn't go down.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like that everybody else is sort of complacent to it. And I think that the way they shot this, like he's been drugged sequence, pretty good. Because if you've ever been drugged, this is kind of how it feels. Like they have the anxiety.
Slanted a bit, and like you're still kind of coherent, but like you're walking on like a pivotal axis here, and you're kind of,
and like, you know, every time he talks to people, they just like burst out laughing in his face, right?
Yeah.
So you can only imagine that he's probably walking up to people and like in the reality of the
Slurring
situation, he's
stuff.
probably like blah 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 blah, and they're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Right?
It's true.
We move over to Misbehavior, who's found Kate the Great. They're smoking weed, smoking that spliff. She has a gift. It's weed. Miss is like, no at first, but then she's like, you have a big match tomorrow. You got to relax. And then she hits it, and she kind of like relaxes. Now, this is one of those points in a film that's kind of hard to describe. A lot of things are happening at once. Meanwhile, Joe is taken by a random woman, but also Randy. And Joe gets taken by 2 other girls who are like very clearly cultists. He's tied up. Lupercalia is the
Rusty
the thing
Beans is taken by 2 girls.
Yeah,
right?
And Lupercalia is that weird
Yeah.
thing they're celebrating.
Yeah.
So this is
And I
another
think
thing, like,
Joe gets raped a little bit. I think he
Yeah.
doesn't.
he
doesn't have dull
100% does.
faculties.
He doesn't get a little
Yeah.
bit. He 100% does. But I think that like this is another thing where I'm like, is this part of the ritual? Like they need to have somebody who is sort of like the gatekeeper or like the coaxer of the demon from hell. So they have to brand this guy to be the one that's announcing these
Oh, yeah,
fights
they brand him
as
yeah.
sort of like the chanting voice to like start the spell.
Santana.
Yeah.
Repeating that over and over again. Yeah.
But he's still just trying to be like the announcer that he's doing the job he would regularly, which I guess is like, it's fine as long as he's saying it
The
with
following
intent.
hand job is scheduled for me.
Jesus.
As long as
Best
he's
line.
yeah, as long as he's saying things that are evoking a response from the cultists and like activating the spell kind of thing is
Yeah.
like that's what the importance is, and that's why the brand is on him. But then they just get rid of him later, and I'm like, oh, I guess that had absolutely nothing. They just branded him for fun.
We just wanna
Like,
bang you and brand you. That's just
Yeah.
how we do. Yeah.
yeah, that was my other nickname in high school was Bang and Brand.
Or weird brand, as I like to call them.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about too. Like the girls are also stoned, and they kind of open up to each other, and they don't dislike each other like we talked about earlier in the movie. But we do see her have another weird dream sequence, misbehave, and then it's the next day. She wakes up. Miss is in her bed. She's in her clothes. She checks to see if she has her underwear on or something, which I thought was played for comedy, maybe. I don't know, or maybe a horrifying reality. But they reconvene for breakfast, and the feast for breakfast is a nightmare. A cooked pig and cheesies and jello and
Yeah.
breakfast sausages.
Yeah.
Like, I'll fuck that up if I'm stoned, but like if I'm hungover, I'd be like, nothing on this table looks appetizing.
It
I just
looks
eat the sausages.
absolutely disgusting.
I'll tell you, Jello is a good hangover cure.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. I've just made that up. All I could think of was like, oh, I'm about to get me some breakfast pig and some Jello, and I feel good about it. Nothing like a mouthful of scrambled eggs and Jello to really start your morning.
Fuck.
It's already puke in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's the logo for the company, the breakfast company. It's already barf in your mouth.
But the weirdo cultists are staring at Enigma, and it feels very bizarre. It feels racially charged.
Yeah, as they're eating their breakfast Cheetos, that was another moment. Me and Danny were like, "What is going?" Like,
He's like, I don't trust a man who don't eat his breakfast Cheetos.
And then we get we get a scene that's in every movie that has a morning scene like this, where Miss goes to find Joe, and then the door opens a little bit extra, and there's a woman in his bed. Classic scene in everything.
Also, a scene that feels like it's written by AI. There's a lot of stuff in this that I'm like, this is just written by a computer or a 12-year-old.
Totally.
But
Or a 12-year-old
Or a 12-year-old computer.
Yeah, it's like a computer that's like on its last legs. Like, I can't do it no more. I already read fucking 100 scripts where someone cheats on their spouse. What do you
Pentium 4.
want from me?
Yeah.
I can't be original anymore. But I did want to say that like the moment where Enigma, it's like the camera is like slowly panning on him, and he's clearly the one that's like looking around the room and like analyzing everything. I'm like, okay, so Enigma has to be more important than just this like background character, right? Because up into this,
also caught wind of that as well. It's like, okay, he's got like a mind to him. Like he's a someone.
And I will say, like, the movie up until this point has not been like, it hasn't been bad at providing you with like the hallmarks of cinema, or at least cinematic storytelling. So I'm like, everything that they're doing is pretty
It's hitting
deliberate.
all the beats. The setup is right. You know,
It's not inept in any way so far. So I'm like, they're showing me something here. I have to pay attention, because this is very much a movie where everything is here for specific reasons. Even if it's just surface level reasons, it's there for a reason. They're not going to do a slow pan in on Enigma while he's like watching some fucking hillbilly eat Cheetos for no reason. I'm like, this has some import to like to the story. So I'm like, okay, Enigma is going to be important in some way, which directly led to me when he does like eventually meet his demise. I'm like, I'm like, he's not dead. He didn't get. We need to resolve the Cheeto stare. The
Right.
Cheeto
Yeah.
stare has not been resolved yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So sometimes a movie like this is really fun to watch because you can kind of like break it down before you even get to the point where you know you're breaking it down. You're like, oh no. We saw the Cheeto stare. The Cheeto
Yeah.
stare. It was
There's
important.
something happening here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we like it was sold to me like a slasher where Jericho is the booker for this wrestling thing. Some of that is true, but once they get there and there's been no gore for the first half and it's been this story being created, I really did feel like, oh, it's like got adventure tones. I'm being taken on this trip and nothing really overtly bad is happening. But then it also has that like that when cult stuff gets involved,
Yeah.
that you get that uneasy
The
feeling,
temperature just all of a sudden. is like,
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
which I really
Yeah.
enjoyed.
Also, yeah, like when you do add a cult element to something, you always know that the logic in terms of like the lower you go down the rungs of people involved with this cult, there will be no logic the lower you go. So these
Mhm.
people all become foot soldiers until you get to that higher. sort
They're
of-
irrational.
Yeah, they're never going to be able to
following-
be reasoned with. They
Yeah.
basically are monsters that you cannot,
Yes. Yes.
you can get into a fight with one and you're going to have to kill them because they're the only thing is your goal is to get to that top peak where the boss is,
Yeah.
which is good. Like that's a good structure for this type of movie. You kind of want
Yeah.
that. And they're setting the tone slowly, but they're also giving you as many puzzle pieces if you need. Also, maybe a couple extra ones you didn't need. You're like, this puzzle has too many pieces.
Yeah, like at this point in the movie, they're still
Right,
shoehorning
dude,
in this like
this one,
sort of
yeah.
love story. Like they have the like there were no expectations set on a relationship stuff,
Well,
which
I mean, that's also stuff that's like you need that for the characters to be relatable and for you to
Yeah.
be invested in, right? Like those things are important. I'm talking like other stuff, like the dressing of everything. Like when they walk up and they're like, they could have just shown us the poster, like them walk by the poster, them looking at the poster and having the conversation about the cheating. But then the cheating conversation gets thrown out the window so quickly, and they're just like, "Don't you think that these gimmicky gimmicks are too gimmicky? Wouldn't you say
Mhm.
these gimmicks are too gimmicky?" And like that's like taking our focus and putting it right there. And we're like,
Yeah.
that's an extra puzzle piece we didn't
Yeah.
need. We could have just
Like-
showed them having the conversation about cheating with the poster there, and we would have been able to put that together. We don't need that.
But also, when I saw that in reality, I know what an Inferno match is, and I knew they almost do like a real world wrestling Inferno match in this to a degree. An Inferno match in WWE back in the day. You remember Kane, of course. Did you
Yeah.
ever see an Inferno match?
Yeah.
I know you have, Chris,
Oh,
but
yeah.
did you ever?
I don't know. Fire involved, I assume.
Yeah, but the thing it's such a cinematic weird thing that they created where you body slam somebody in the ring and the flames go
Yeah.
Okay.
and the point of the match I think is to light your opponent on fire, but
So when
they've
was
done
the
it like
first-
twice.
When was the first Inferno match? Do you know?
I think 1998.
So then in this movie, an Inferno match wouldn't have existed yet, right?
No.
Theoretically, yeah.
So that's why he was like, what the fuck is an Inferno match?
Yeah. And there's all these like fucking earth signs and shit going on. It's like, oh,
Yeah, I mean, each one was called like air, wind,
Yeah, the
earth.
elements.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, but then that one's called Inferno and not fire, and I'm like, ooh, that
Oh,
sounds way
God.
more intense than air. It could have been called tornado match
Sure.
or like
But it is.
mudslide match. No, they're called.
And what's
it's
fun-
called water, earth, or not fire, water, earth, wind, and then
Spirit.
Inferno, and then spirit. And I'm
Cage
also
match
like,
is a spirit match.
also at this point when we saw that, I was like, oh no. And Danny was like, what? I'm like, they're gonna summon Captain Planet at the end of this
Oh,
movie.
I was thinking about the whole time. It is funny that when we're gonna get to that in a minute because we're almost to the series of matches, and that's gonna be we're gonna get through it fast. But the tornado match is interesting because in wrestling, a tornado tag match means there's no tags. Everybody's in the ring at the same time.
Yeah.
But that tag match very obviously still has the tag element. It just has wind in the middle.
Yeah,
we can
like
cut-
literally a giant fan is
Yeah.
blowing.
Which is
Yeah,
something
so
I've
yeah,
never
that
seen
takes us to
before.
the first match, which was the wind match.
Yeah,
Pretty
just let me make sure that that is what's that. I wanted to mention that we got Word Up in the movie as well by
Yes, the
Cameo,
song. Yep.
which is incredible. Another one
It's one of
where
my
that,
favorite songs in movies, and not poorly used in this movie as well.
Not at all. Yeah, that's like her mix getting ready montage is kind of going
And like,
on.
yeah, and people slowly walking around. And it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, and it's a very sexy song. Like it just, it's not a sexual song so much as it is just like when you hear
Word Up.
you just kind of be like, yes,
Yeah, you're grooving.
yeah.
Also worth noting too that the characters start realizing that they're being kind of held in their waiting rooms by these armed, not security, but obviously these armed like people. And they start the seeds of like suspicion are really starting to sow here at this point.
Yeah.
So like, why can't I go watch this match? Sorry, like what?
Because they go
Because
down.
you're in Talon Holding.
They go
Right.
down and like she immediately asks Stephen Ogg's character like, let's just wait outside instead of down here? And he's like, I don't want to wait in the fucking cold. He also keeps saying speak for yourself over and over at this point. I'm like, why do you keep saying speak for yourself? Speak for yourself. Yeah, okay.
Okay, I can only speak for myself.
Yeah. But she's on full like, I don't trust these psychopaths. Like this is insane. Like
There's a lot of buildup in this movie, and it is one of those rush to the finish kinds of movie. Like this whole middle part where they do the matches, there's a lot of stuff happening, but there isn't a lot of stuff to talk about. Like it's one of those.
we're going to be talking a
on the
lot
show.
about like the mechanics, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because there's not too much storytelling going on, and it's pretty clear.
This is where the wrestling starts.
Yeah.
And some of it is speculative, but we get a little bit more character development from Thick and Thin or
Right.
Hack and
Thick
Slap.
and Thin.
I'm
Yeah.
thick, I'm thin, we're in it, or something.
Yeah.
Some
We
sort
love
of line
Jesus.
gets given, yeah.
So yeah, the first match is a tag match. It's a wind match. There's a fan in the middle of the ring, which is crazy. I thought, okay, so I need to tell you guys something else that I thought about this movie. I get kind of like preemptively scared of horror movies still to this day, even though I'm pretty desensitized, where I thought this movie was going to be a gore fest. And when I saw that fan, I thought they were going to rip
chopped
back
up.
the cage. But then I realized they don't have the budget to fucking do anything close to what my brain can conjure. Not even remotely. So I'm going, is somebody's face going to get put into the cage? But the cage never gets opened.
Yeah.
And I think the wind part of this match is more so for the ending, which is one guy gets just like bludgeoned and killed. The other guy gets like choked. But
No, one of them doesn't get killed.
That's
Only one of them gets killed in this fight.
Yeah.
The other one
you
is.
They even
100%
say it to him, it's like, only one of them you has to go.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, what? And then he watches his partner get choked by like a garrote or like a
It's like barbed wire or something.
Yeah.
Because it slits his throat open. And I did want to talk about this as well, because I think it is like such a well executed gag in terms of gore that I haven't really seen before. Which is like, which is somebody like a blood gout coming out in a pump of some sort, but there's all this air being pumped up underneath him, so the blood is just like flying up into the air, and it's not digital whatsoever. It's all a practical effect, and just the way it's lit and everything. I'm like, okay, movie. Very good. This is a very good physical.
It's what they
gag.
needed at that exact time.
Yeah,
in
because
this
I was
kind of
starting
movie.
to lose faith. And I'm like, what is this movie
Yeah.
even about? Oh my god, look at
Yeah.
that blood go! I'm in. I'm in.
Spurting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jason, you are right. That guy does eventually die, but it's revealed to us later that even the winners get executed later, and they just have a room full of corpses. But
True.
I thought that when he went down, like his eyes
he was
closed,
just-
and I thought he just got bashed hard.
he was closing his eyes because he didn't want to see his best friend getting fucking killed. But he was alive still. But yeah, I think in terms of the gore gags in this movie, that's the one that takes the cake for me, man. I don't think that anything else really topped it. There was one. Yeah, there was one other one where I was like, ugh, and there was another part where I kept being like, Buffy his ass. Buffy his ass. Come on, misbehave. Buffy his ass. When she has like the.
She kind of does, yeah.
She kind of reverse Buffy's him,
Yeah.
but he doesn't puff into into dust. But this is we cut to them in the holding area where they're like not allowed to leave. The plastic smile woman is what I called her. She's like, "You're allowed to go. You're not locked in here." But they don't know that their friends are being murdered outside of
No.
this. And Misbehavior's up next, and she wonders why they need to have guns to like escort them to and from the ring. Match number 2. Misbehave versus Kate the Great.
Speak for yourself when she's like a bunch of
Speak for yourself.
C-list wrestler. Like, have you ever seen the need to have an armed escort for C-list wrestlers? And he's like, C-list, speak for yourself. And I was
Yeah.
like, ding, ding. Okay, that's 2 now.
Yeah. Misbehave versus Kate the Great in a water match. The most ineffective thing I've ever seen. I think the whole point of the water was so they're slipping and sliding around the ring, I guess,
Yeah.
would be sort of what
Jason,
No traction.
they just have to sacrifice the person in the element. They don't
No, I get
need
that.
to kill them with the element. The wind just had to be there during the death. The water just has to be there during the death. The dirt just has to be there during
I
the
get
death.
that, but I don't know that yet as somebody watching the movie. I cover all these movies in kayfabe. That's why it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about. As I'm reading through the movie, I'm saying it like I don't know the ending yet. At this point, I still don't really recognize also that it is because of the elements, because they don't reveal that later until they show the pentagram and they
Well, except that
basically
at the
look into the
beginning of
camera and
every
say it.
single wrestling match, they show on the screen
Wind match.
the
Yeah.
earth match, the
Yeah.
water match. And I'm like, oh my God, Fifth Element? Oh my God, Captain Planet? So my brain is going through like all these things. I'm like, oh, this is druidic magic. This is Druish magic. Yeah.
And then Kate and Mick start doing their in-ring conversations again, and they kind of start realizing, we got to get out of here. They're gonna kill us. And I like that they're starting to collude together. And
Well, they
trying to
agreed to
figure something out.
agree to do some standard catch as catch
they-
can.
They say old core. I think they say old core, which I guess stands for old choreography. Is that
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
say choreography is. I think they say choreography.
no? She says she uses like a shortened version.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I assume that means this. Like it
Which
sounds
I thought
almost
was
like
cool actually, because it's like
Yeah.
they've worked together many times. Okay, just let's do our routine.
Do old
almost.
core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is also interesting too because it seems like from here on out, the people that the good guys are fighting are influenced by something, like they've been possessed.
Yes.
We do find out right after this that Kate the Great is literally the prophet's daughter. But
Yeah.
when we see Lazarus or whatever his name is, the hairspray guy later,
Yeah.
he's got like dark circles under his eyes, and
Yeah,
he's like,
Lazarus Smashley or whatever his
Yeah.
AI
Yep.
name was. Yeah.
he also says they have my family. They're going to kill my son.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we know why he's doing it.
Yeah.
I think we don't really figure out why Mirror Boy Nature Boy is doing it or whatever. And we don't really figure out why the Beastie Boys
The
are doing
Beast
it.
Bros had no motivation to do what they did.
I think they were fully demonically possessed because
Yeah.
remember how they talk about, oh, they have a gimmick change. I guess they reinvented themselves.
I think that the last fighter where he reveals that they have my family, they're gonna kill my family.
Yeah.
I think we're meant to retroactively, like, other than
Go
Kate,
back and think
be
they
like
probably
those other
did,
two. They
yeah.
probably had something else as well. Like they've got something on us to make us have to do this.
Yeah.
But they only had to focus on one half, right? So like Kate was probably poisoning them the whole time, like doing what she was doing in the ring, like lying and just like being like, no, we have to do this or they're gonna kill us. We have to kill them or they'll kill us. It's us versus them.
Yeah.
She was probably working them in the other room. We just don't get to see it. And then, they're also telling like, we have your son. We're going to blow his brains out if you don't do this fight. And
Yeah.
look, we've got all this room full of corpses. Like, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas the heels, they just are like, no, we'll just throw the heels in there. We only have to work one end of this so that one end is trying to kill the other and the other one is just going to be trying to survive.
And that's the interesting part in where we are in the movie, where Kate, I guess the viewer gets that. Well, Kate basically tells Mick that only one of us has to live, and you see her kind of turn almost, like
Yeah.
she reveals herself as a villain, and then okay, this fight is about to get real. One of them's gonna die. It's probably not gonna be Mick, but it's
Right.
gonna happen right now. And that was
But-
kind of cool. You get the ball and chain out there. You got like a mace type
a
weapon.
Morning Star.
Yeah,
And
Morning Star.
also,
Yeah.
I really think it's interesting that I'm pretty sure in the early part of the movie, Misbehave is using like a
Her
gimmick
chain, yeah. Her
plastic
chain.
chain.
Yeah.
But at this point, a chain gets introduced to the ring. She finds her chain. The Morning Star gets tied up on the ropes. She gets the chain, and they end up in this like Kate's neck is tied up in the chain.
Yeah.
She gets a good swipe in on Misbehave, but she gets Misbehave reverses that into has her neck fully taken, covered,
And
and then pulls her up and then snaps her neck.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
turns her face into hamburger meat.
Totally.
oh yeah, the nose effect of her nose being split was so fucking brutal.
They also
Yeah.
did a good job of shooting it, so it's like only from the side. So you're like most of it is your imagination filling in the blanks there, and like
Yeah.
even when they show it, it's kind of like rough and over the shoulder and out of focus. You're like, okay, this is good photography. They know what they're doing here. This is some Mandy stuff. But yeah, she definitely uses a chain at the beginning of the movie. She also, before she goes into the fight, says, "I forgot my chain. I need to get my chain." And then the lady's like, "Don't worry, there's props in the ring." Or whatever.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, she does do that. Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as I see the chain dumped down, I'm like, oh, so they give them both weapons? Like, it's not even like they just gave one to Kate the Great to ensure the victory. They also threw the chain down. For a moment there, I was like, is this like a secret on their side cultist who's like, we gotta even the odds?
Yeah, it is weird, especially considering what happens is the revelation of the prophet coming down, or the leader as he's now called, and mourning the death of Kate. And right away I'm like, that's weird, that's odd. And then he's kind of crying and sobbing, and he mutters the words, "My daughter," and it all clicks, and you realize that Kate is his daughter. And now you start retroactively thinking back, like, oh, was she a plant this whole time to kind of persuade them there, or lead them there, make sure they're going through the right motions for this sacrifice, this ritual to take place? And I thought that was good. It wasn't like as impactful of a twist as it could have been. I don't know what steps they could have taken to make that more impactful. Maybe giving Kate some more lines to have her a bit more like believable on the side of the good guys. Like just
they should have done like a real sort of like Vader-esque type thing where like she's got Misbehave like on the ropes, like with her like foot on her throat literally, and like has the Morning Star like she's about to bash her, and then like she's like, "What say you, father?" like something crazy, like something like way too over the top biblical with like a low angle and crazy lighting. Make it a little bit more dramatic, because I was kind of a little bit confused. I'm like, does he mean daughter in like the biblical sense, or
that's
like,
how I
sense? And, like,
that's how I saw it. But it turns out
that's not their intent, and that's why I think that was a bit of a misstep. They needed to do something. I don't know what the solution was, but they didn't drive it home how impactful that could have been.
Unfortunately, I think that the solution was the very next scene is Stephen Ogg sprinting through exposition to be like, "Little Kate Juby Bobby from back in the day," and I'm like, hold on, how old is she supposed to be? The last time you saw this guy was 6 years ago, and she looks like she's almost 40. Like, like what the hell is going on?
Yeah, Joe
here?
has an amazing fucking little backstory of Chris Jericho's character, the Prophet, which is kind of
well, that's what's funny to me. That's when he realized, like he looked up and saw the Prophet at the party, and now he's just realizing that the Prophet is
dude, you knew that he used to be like this, had this Christian gimmick, and then he went super extreme and brought in his occult kind of like leanings and went fully demonic. And
you also knew that she had a daughter. And
you knew he had a daughter. Probably,
but like if it was 6
he
years
goes
ago,
like, "Oh, the Prophet's daughter."
No, he says her name, but he says little Katie, whatever the fuck his last name is, which means that she was like around, hanging around the ring and stuff, which only would have been 6 years ago. And it's like, you didn't recognize somebody.
Yeah, she's probably looking similar, like, that's hilarious.
And then I like the element that
luckily for us, they sprint by it so fast that you forget about it already. Like by the time he's done explaining it, there like a new thing happens, and you're like, wait, okay, whatever. Glow sticks. Come on, bring on the glow sticks.
He disappears into obscurity, but it turns out he just went and made this crazy cult. So they grab Enigma, and they take him away.
I feel
And
like you're
Mr.
not grasping the issue we have, Jason. It's the daughter that we have an issue with, not him.
Yeah.
Him disappearing is fine. His daughter being almost 40 and him calling her little Katie, whatever the fuck her name is.
Oh,
and
since
like
it was
he
only
doesn't.
60 okay.
Yeah, like how
Only
old is
6
she
years
supposed to
ago.
be? It was only 6
Because they
years
keep
ago.
saying 1982. Yeah.
Like she's got to be like 31, right? Like you're like
Hypothetically, she's 22. 6 years ago, she's a fully formed individual.
right?
She's like 17.
But
Which should
we're
be
more,
like-
we're more concerned that he doesn't recognize somebody who's 6 years older. Like if somebody is 16 to 24 years old, like
Yeah.
you're still gonna recognize them. You're not
Yeah.
gonna be like, who the fuck are you? Like maybe if they're 8 to 20 years
Right, that's
old,
a big gap,
you
yeah.
go through a lot of changes in that amount of time.
But then that means Kate the Great is like 18.
I know,
Or
and Kate the
17.
Great
There's
looks
no
like she's
way.
like in her
There's no way
40s
she
in this
is.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm being a little bit too like extra. Like but she doesn't look like she's in her 20s. She looks like she's in her 30s. So you don't get an age, and you don't get an understanding of how long she's been working for this wrestling company. Like it's all
Yeah.
this stuff that you have to like. You just have to forget it.
I have
in
to
order for the
fill in
movie.
my gaps for this movie, and then, or just forget it, which is easier on my mind. Yeah,
Yeah, the forgetting is what you got to do because like otherwise it's
Totally.
not going to make any fucking sense.
yeah. But I like the little, backstory bit, and that's always fun. You get the villain's
Yeah.
like descent into madness, and like
I feel like
don't
the writing in this is like they wanted to have like Stephen Ogg's character be like a Iron Fist style, like black
Yeah.
and white wrestler to the era of the 1980s, and like they were trying to figure out how to work it all in, and they just didn't do it in the way that they could have. Like the
I don't
gimmicky wrestler
mind-
didn't show up until the 80s, so it was like
yeah,
I don't mind an exposition dump in a 90-minute movie because this movie could, with a bigger budget and more lore building, it could be a 2-hour movie.
yeah. And the problem that I have is not the exposition dump; it's the
No.
fact that it doesn't make sense. Like where I'm like the information that I'm being given only raises more questions instead of answering the concerns that I have.
But like, imagine if they just did it. Like, it's such a small budget. They probably just got actors that the director knew. Like people just around the film company that created it.
Yeah.
Like they probably just hired who they had instead of making it make sense.
I
But
feel
even
like
still,
the-
you guys are totally right. Like,
Honestly,
I didn't
the
even
only
think
thing they
about
would have had to
the
have
fact that she
changed-
looks older.
The only thing they would have had to have changed is that little shot where he's watching himself on TV. Just make that 15 to 20 years earlier.
yeah.
And
Because
then
they both
and
look
then all
the
these
same.
and then well the thing is it's like a little shitty TV and they're not ever showing them in the ring in like full HD. It's like it's just this crappy little CRTV television. You could cast anybody, just make them look slightly like them,
Yeah.
or still have
Yeah.
them, and the quality is so low that you're not going to be able to tell how
Yeah.
old they are.
It's degraded qualities. It's already
Yeah.
hard to tell.
Anyway,
yeah.
we're rewriting the movie instead of
But
moving
yeah,
on and
yeah,
talking about the one we
this
watched.
this happens from time to time on this show. But they take Enigma. Miss says this isn't a dark match. There are cameras, and the Prophet does sort of a eulogy for Kate. And we're shown the whole production room, which I thought was interesting.
Bless.
Rusty has
Thank you.
been being injected by some sort of green ooze. He's being injected by the venom serum from Batman, apparently.
Yeah,
Mm,
and we don't get
mutagen.
what that does. Yeah, it's like the TMNT ooze, and you're like, what is this doing to him?
And then the ring is fully filled
We
with
don't know.
dirt for the next match. And he
Yeah.
sees a piece of glass on the ground. And we'll find out why in a minute. But he picks a piece of glass up and he's like, I'm going to fucking kill myself. But Spencer, the hired Nazi heavy,
Spencer.
is basically like, you won't do it, you pussy. And he doesn't.
And lo and
end up
behold,
killing
he is a
himself.
pussy and he doesn't do it.
Yep.
Yeah,
But Spencer was right.
And then Spencer
was
tosses him.
totally on mark here. He also says ashes to ashes, dirt to dirt.
Yeah, that was clutch. Yeah, that was so good.
Well, speaking of dirt, we're on match 3 now. It's
Yeah.
Enigma versus Kid Humble. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen in ECW, the two brothers, Ian Rotten and I don't remember his brother's name because it's inconsequential, but they had a very disgusting match in real life called the Taipei Death Match. And what this match entails is you tape your hands backwards with tape and dip them in glass and then wrestle each other. It's garbage. It's mud. It's mud grounds bullshit. Shit wrestling from the worst era of ECW, and it's probably the worst match in wrestling history. But in this version of it, they take Enigma and they only they tape his hands up, but it seems like he's got a lot of exposed parts, because when they dip his hands in the glass, he's like, but then they pour is it asbestos? Like, what do they? What's the white
type paste to like?
What's the? But it's like a
Well,
powder.
they dip his hands. Yeah, they dip his hands into goo.
Yeah.
Like, right, I think it's like this. You know, we're rebranding Marv, instead of the wet bandits, we're the sticky bandits. It's like, whatever he uses. It's like molasses or whatever. Then he sticks his hand in the glass, and I think the last one was supposed to be like gymnasts chalk, you know, and they like.
Okay.
That's what I thought it was meant to be, but like, I also was like, I don't fucking know what that is.
It might be just like.
But this was one of.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say this is one of my favorite effects of the movie, because when they reveal the hands, they're like very colorful.
Look cool. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Chris? Sorry.
Oh no, nothing. No, I think I was gonna say something similar. Where like I just liked the look of it. It kind of gave me like a kickboxer feel, and it's like, holy shit, this is gonna get intense here.
And Enigma is like seemingly refusing to fight, which I kind of liked. I'm like, he's an honorable man under that mask. We know that much. Like he's still like, I don't want to fight my friends. Yeah. Still doesn't speak, but he's like, he's trying to elicit some sort of empathy from his fellow wrestler man. Yeah. But this is the only
first time you hear him. He's like, ow! When like they dip his hand in the glass, and this is the only time. I was like, oh fuck, okay, he can speak.
He has at least sound that comes out of him.
Yeah.
And Jericho has a great line here too, where he says, "I defy anyone to say what we do is fake."
Oh
at this moment.
he has a lot of that. Like he says it a few times. Like, tell me again if pro wrestling is fake. Like he's
it's about the showmanship.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Telling me how fake it is. The connecting punches don't connect. Well, how about this connection? Ugh, blood.
That's amazing.
But they throw Rusty into a holding area, back into the holding area. They're about to kill him, but then Rob saves the day by faking that he's going to kill Rusty himself. He clocks the glass that Rusty has just put into his pocket or his belt buckle.
Yeah.
And he pulls it out and kills the guys. And then I thought it was super funny because Rusty's like, I knew I was saved. You were pulling your punches and everything is going to be great. And in that moment, he fucking clocks him so hard.
Yeah.
Because Joe is like, I'm going to kill this guy myself as sort of a diversionary tactic to keep them from literally shooting him in that moment. I thought this was a good scene.
Yeah, it's a good scene.
Yeah, it was also good because we, as the audience, knew they do a good job of telegraphing everything to us. Like it's not a surprise to us. They have the moment of Eylock. They have the moment of him, looking to the glass. We saw him put the glass again. The movie's not wasting bits. If that glass never came back, we'd be like, "What happened to the glass?" But the glass is gonna come back, folks. In 3, 2, 1, the next scene. Don't worry, it's gonna be.
Yeah, the writing is fine. The writing's sound there. Everything leads to something most of the time.
And some good slish slash. You're taking a bloodbath.
Totally.
Slash. I was taking a bloodbath. Yeah, I heard it.
And a good neck slash and then a good side slash and then Misbehave finishes the guy off, I guess, by choking him out. But bleed. He's gonna bleed to death. I like the thank God, it implies that like you, Jason, you have wrestling experience, but you don't really wrestle. You're mostly the announcer, right? But every once in a while, they'll come up and beat the shit out of you, and we're all like, "Leave him alone! Leave him alone!"
Yeah. Jake something took me out on the stage real good one time, and then a little bit of how the sauce, a little bit of inside baseball. After the show, he's like, "Are you good?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was fine." It's like, "Did it look good?" That's the wrestler. That's the wrestler.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
one that I went to like years and years and years ago where Jason was like, the guy was chasing him and like punching him and like chasing around the ring, and then Jason's running away and like he grabs Jason by the pants and pulls his pants off, but Jason has wrestling pants underneath like his suit. And he's like, ah, and starts fighting. I was like, this is amazing. That is so fucking funny. Yeah.
That's good.
I'll never forget that. That you can find that on my
The announcer
TikTok
just-
and my YouTube.
The idea in my head of like the announcer just always having wrestling pants,
Like, kind of
underneath his
always
wrestling
ready to
pants.
go,
Yeah,
yeah.
just in case he needs to have them.
Always ready, buddy, with the Z. So Prophet and Spencer are talking about the ritual. I think this is the first time we see that like pentagram in the back,
Mm.
and and SAW took everything from him, so now he wants to make them pay. I thought that was an interesting bit of lore.
Mhm.
I wish this movie had more lore to it, and I know
They
I've said it a
tried.
couple
They
times.
got a little bit in there.
Yeah, I guess
I know what
I
you
guess
mean.
with what they had to work with, they
Yeah.
did a great job. But Rusty eventually shows the brand he's been given and says that they've been drugging him.
Mhm.
Oh, this is when Joe punches him a bunch and then manages to get the glass. Blah blah blah. I already talked about this, and Joe ends up with an assault rifle.
Mhm.
So Prophet wants Joe. This is when Joe puts Miss and Rusty in the wall hole, which they found earlier in the movie.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so weird, but also, again, just a thing where this seems like they like, as you're writing a script, you're like, what do you do? And then you're like, okay, well, they need to get out. We'll make a hole here, and then it's
Right.
like, oh, and then the hole can lead to the room where they have this. Yeah, this
Yeah.
makes sense. You know, it just seems like
It's
sort
a
of a
convenient.
yeah,
little
it's like a term
outlet.
of convenience in a script.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I'm okay with it because we don't
Totally.
need to spend a bunch of time of them wandering through a cave or some
Yeah.
shit. You know, like
Yeah.
let's just have it immediately connected here.
We know they're gonna get there. Let's just get
Yeah.
them there. Yeah.
Let's just get them there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't hate it. It's just one of
Nope.
those things where I'm like, convenient,
Yeah.
convenient movie. Okay, I'll allow it.
Yeah.
I did just get to watch two people beat each other up with glass gloves. I liked that.
And I like the little wrinkle right after where like the leader, you see that they're filming everything, and it's mentioned that this is kind of like a snuff film, and
Yeah.
his goal actually isn't really to like revive this demon. I'm sure it is, but like this is how he makes money. He sells
Yeah.
these things
It
as
is-
snuff films.
Yeah, it's so the implication in the movie is that the shitty Spencer and his headset wearing smiley woman, those
Yeah.
two are the ones that truly believe
Yeah.
in the
They're
ritual.
the
that
cultists. Yeah.
they're
like
they're the
true
actual cult leaders.
Yeah.
Whereas he's sort of a propped
Figurehead.
up. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
propped up sort of puppet for them because they know that we can get this guy to get all these people that already follow him through his
Yeah.
wrestling to believe
He's the
what we're doing.
charismatic influencer. He'll
Yeah.
bring the masses to do what we secretly want done.
It does feel like, again, on paper that is like a really good construction for a villain, where it's like this guy at the top is not
Totally.
actually in charge of everything. It's these other people, and
Yeah.
he doesn't actually believe what he's doing, but these two people do. But the movie
Yeah.
doesn't really do an excellent job of executing that, because those two
No.
don't ever really feel like serious threats, even though they should, because they're the ones that are actually
Yeah,
trying to get
Spencer
this
could have
ritual
had a
going.
bit more of like a serious, like he could have been a bigwig feel to him, but he doesn't. But if he did, that would have been
Yeah.
amazing.
I think like in a better movie, and I again, this movie's not bad. I don't hate this movie, but I think like the way that sort of last battle between Steven and Chris Jericho should have went is that
Yeah,
Chris Jericho like reveals that he's a fraud during the fight, and then
that'd be
Steven
cool.
Stephen
Yeah.
Ogg is like, well, you don't have to fucking do this, and then he's like, fuck.
Yeah.
And he hesitates for a second, and then Spencer comes up and Buffy's him, like, and he's like,
Yeah.
the spirit must be fucking appeased or whatever, and kills Chris Jericho.
Yeah, that'd be fucking awesome. I could see that, and then you realize, okay, Spencer's really pulling these strings here.
Yeah, but
Goes
the movie
inside
doesn't
the
really
rest of the
bother
world.
to.
Yeah.
Again, I think they get to the point where they're like, let's just. Should we get to the demon summoning already, or what? And they're like, no.
Well,
We spent $1 million on this demon costume.
Mean Jolene is called up next. It's time for match 4. Mean Jolene, Lean Joe Mean
Yeah.
Yeah.
versus Lazarus Smashley. in an inferno match. There's fire in the middle, like a brazier, like a fucking, you know, a spit that's going to create a demon out of it.
Yeah, we all thought that
and
someone was gonna get kicked into that, right?
right,
Like,
but
get
the
kicked in there.
turnbuckles are also shooting fire, which is pretty intense.
Can I also
And-
say, I keep forgetting to mention this. There's like this young, like sort of handsome referee that's there the entire time, and all I can think is like, why the fuck is there still a referee? Like, what is the referee's job in these matches? To
They
stop
call them
people
out.
from doing what exactly?
Call
Breaking
the
each
match
other's
fair and
ankles.
square. Till the
Yeah,
death.
you don't
One, two,
question the
three.
sanctity.
He's dead. He's burnt to death.
There hasn't been a 3 count in this whole fucking movie.
Yeah. He's just
Yeah.
there. Yeah. He does have one
But-
purpose at the very end of the movie, and that's like, I'm like, I guess that's why he was there. But like there's some matches where I'm like, I don't even notice that he's in there. Is he in there at all? I don't know. And I'm usually like the guy who's watching the referee the whole time, because I'm like, what's the referee doing? Is he
That's
safe?
fun to
Is he
do,
gonna
yeah.
get hurt in there? He looks smaller than the rest.
As Steve mentioned previously, Lasseter's family has been captured.
Yes.
And they have, he said, like, they have stuff on all of us. Lazarus just sprays himself a bunch and gets pushed into the flame, I guess. Basically,
I mean, he's
runs
extra-
at him.
He's extra flammable because of all the hairspray that's all over him, right? Like,
which
if
is
he
a
even gets-
joke, right? Like that, like the
I
whole
think it
thing.
was supposed to be a joke. Like,
Yeah.
but also the referee at the beginning of that round spraying extra hairspray all over him, like,
Yeah.
and he's like, they have my family. You're like, oh, God, this guy.
And then after, when we get a great person on fire sequence here, which is cool. But then Prophet calls for the final match, and we get a great shot of a burned up body. But this is where Prophet sort of does his monologue about wrestling is real, and it's not about what is real and what is fake. It's about the showmanship and yada yada yada. And I think I couldn't help but thinking that, like, and I always have this problem with wrestling movies. In movie, do wrestlers like not watch wrestling, and do they think, like, in kayfabe, do wrestlers think wrestling is real? It's so
it
confusing
again.
when you make a move. Do wrestlers in kayfabe, do wrestlers
Yeah.
think wrestling is real?
Mm.
Also,
Interesting.
within the
I
actors,
hypothesize
the
that
characters,
wrestlers don't watch wrestling because they can be
I
hit
think
from behind. So
I think
frequently.
that for you to answer that question, also, like, for people listening that aren't familiar with the terminology, it's like kayfabe is the act on stage. You're not,
Yeah.
you know, you're part of that, so you're part of the show. So, I mean, the real question, Jason, would be like, when you're watching a play, do you believe that the characters that are in the play believe that the play is happening? So the answer would be yes. You
So
know,
the
they-
answer is
they-
yes.
Yeah, if the character on stage believes that they're all of
That's
it, they
right.
have to, or else it's not going to be
You're
fun.
in
You know?
character. That's you're
Yeah.
in that world. Yeah.
And that's
Like
why it's so
an
easy to
actor can
spend
still be
just
on
believing
stage in
wrestling.
a Shakespearean play and like do a tongue-in-cheek thing to the audience, like a break of the fourth wall, because they're like,
Yeah.
the audience could be in on this, but like I'm
Well, it's
still
like
a
us
character in the
right
play
now.
and believe it.
Like if we're talking and we fully believe that we're doing a podcast, I'm like, cut. Oh yeah, we're
Fuck, I forgot real life exists.
yeah. So like that's how I feel like any actor has to take their job.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
the answer, Jason, is yeah. Like the characters on stage in wrestling have to believe. Like
Yeah.
if the actor doesn't, it's fine. But like the character you're playing has to believe that the match is for
Yeah.
real. Their honor's at stake. You know.
Yeah.
And then you add that extra layer of they're in a movie.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a mind fuck.
Oh man, did
It is.
Deadpool write this movie? It would explain why it feels like it
Right?
was written by a 14-year-old boy.
So
Oh.
Prophet calls for a 2-minute blackout, and we go over to the people in the hole who do find their way out. They find their way into a ritual chamber, which is where the pentagram and the. Did you notice
love
that the bodies were placed at the points of the pentagram?
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, where else are you gonna place the bodies, Jason?
I know, that's a good point.
Just all over the fucking place. You got to put them at the bowl of dirt goes here, and then the body goes
Everything
here.
has a precise location,
Yeah.
Jason.
Haven't you
It's a
ever
ritual.
summoned a demon before, Jason? What
I've
the
tried
fuck?
so much, but I always put my bodies like in the middle of the points because I
Yeah.
thought that's what
Oh,
the
fuck.
demon lord wanted. That's what I thought that the supreme ruler wanted.
The dents, the in points.
The dents, the
Yeah.
pentagram dents. That's what they called me in high school. Pentagram dents.
Pentagram dance.
But Rusty finds the exit, and he's like, "I'm out. Let's go, Miss." And misbehaving. It's like, "Gonna stay behind. Got to see if
Not
Joe's gonna
without
be
my
okay."
boo.
She's like, Daddy
Yeah.
told me not to. Gonna do it anyway, Miss.
Misbehaving. Running around with a pickle in my mouth. So we didn't mention this in Enigma's match, but he gets stabbed really hard in the gut, and we get a scene of him being taken into this ritualistic chamber. And interestingly enough, Misbehaving's like sitting there like, what do I do? Rusty Beans has left, but he sits up like the Undertaker, and turns out it was all kayfabe. And this is one of the times in the movie he actually says words, and he says like, "Got to keep kayfabe."
No, she said, "How did you do that?" And he just says,
"It's kayfabe."
Yeah, he just says kayfabe, and it's like, is that his only line? I think it might be the only thing he says.
Besides like yelling.
Yeah, when he puts his hand in
hands get
glass
ripped.
and yelps. Yeah, I think we can't fault him for breaking kayfabe there.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of cultists, I mean, I have a fucking cultist right here. That's amazing. Just so
Oh,
nerdy
man.
that-
Is that from Talisman?
No, it's from a Mansions of Madness board game. It's kind of sad.
That's Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
That's 99.9% accuracy. Chris
Before
Jericho.
he takes off his jacket and reveals he's wearing a Twinkerbell harness over his chest.
Twinkerbell.
Yeah, this is Twinkerbell.
Yeah, that's Twinkerbell.
And he's like, we need to summon the demons together.
It's just
Don't forget, we have to maintain kayfabe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Prophet and Joe talk about believing in Satan while the cage is set up. Did you guys think this cage was going to be electrified? Because I 100% thought
I didn't, but now I
That'd
kind of
been
wish.
sick.
Yeah, because electricity is kind of like the
Like
ghost,
the spirit?
the ghost of just like nature or whatever. To me, that's what I always think about. Electricity being is just this weird energy source that like can come from so many different things, like water, wind, earthquakes. So many of it can create electricity, but electricity
Yeah,
can't
like
be
human
created without
conductors.
those things.
That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah,
Human
clouds
beings
crashing
create
together.
energy, yeah.
Back to the ritual chamber. They bring in the last body, and
We need to get
Enigma
back
and-
to the ritual chamber.
Enigma and Miss take out the guards, and Miss clucks some gas. Like, we got to take this gas. I also want to say that the people with guns in this movie they hold their guns against. a
Yeah,
lot of
pretty much
people,
the only
never shoot a
gun
single
that
bullet.
goes
Well,
off.
Enigma
is,
gets some shots.
yeah, is
off.
Enigma. Yeah, he's the only one that.
That's
shoot-
not
they-
who I mean. I mean the bad guys in this film, the
Yeah.
cultists.
Well, I
never
think it's
shoot the
because
guns.
that they are using them threateningly because they're like, we can't kill any, because if we kill these people, the ritual won't work. We need to make
That's
sure they're in
true.
the ring with the element in order for it to take effect.
Sacrifice to be proper. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get the
So-
perverted director of the snuff films being like, we're gonna be so fucking rich. Oh god.
Who's also the director of this movie.
Yeah, it is the director of it. It is such a
Uh,
director thing, though, like especially these low budget movies, to be like, yeah, I want to be in the movie and I want to be the only guy who gets shot in the head for the entire movie. I feel like I can do a good job, and I trust my team to shoot it well.
Rusty gets away in the van like an asshole, and the guard chases after, which actually turns out to be a good diversion. While Enigma goes up to the cabins. Now, here's our actual main event. Match number 5 is Dave Prophet Diablos versus Lean Joe Mean in a cage match main event, which is also a spirit match.
Yeah.
That's
Did
why I
anybody
am a professional.
Jolene. I was expecting it to happen.
Lean Jolie. Enigma makes his way back to the TV, the production area, and kills everybody. He destroys all the gear, and
Yeah.
we see that they do that scene that always happens when somebody's going to die soon, or they're clearly bleeding. It reminded me of in a movie when somebody like has a lung problem and they cough into
Yeah.
a handkerchief and they look at it, it's got blood on it.
Blood.
He
Yeah.
does that same thing, but it's like blood gushing out of his wound, and he looks
Except we
down like,
really
uh-oh.
didn't need that because we already saw how badly injured he was before, and like the fact that he's putting a blanket on himself to be like, I'm fucking literally dying. Like I know I did a good kayfabe there, but I don't know how much longer I can
I'm
use these
actually
legs.
dying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So Joe and Diablos are having a slobber knocker, and the fire starts up outside of the ring. The sheep, as they call them, start running around, and Spencer just starts I was wrong. Spencer is actually just shooting at the sheep, at the cultists. He's just taking pot shots,
Oh,
like
yeah.
get back here, shoot at them.
Hey, you have to stay and watch this shit.
Yeah, so I'll shoot at you.
And then it becomes
I'm
like
organizing this.
yeah, you don't understand. I've been doing this since I was 14 years old when they told me that Dungeons and Dragons was evil.
Yeah.
He was that Spencer guy definitely played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons in the
Big
Satanic Panic 80s. But then this is when everybody starts fighting. And this is when we get the Buffy moment that I was talking about, where she snaps.
Yep.
He comes at her with a pitchfork, and he keeps talking about Satan while attacking her with a pitchfork. And I was like, genius. Good writing. Because like we all know that for some reason, Satan is often depicted with a pitchfork. No one really knows why. I'm sure there's a reason, but I don't know why. So he kind of has this devilish property to him already, but then it gets snapped in half, and she's got the handle with the bit, and I'm like, just Buffy his ass. Buffy his ass.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen, and then Enigma shows up and has one last burst of energy left in him to do like a crazy flying
Yep.
double
Nuts.
chest kick.
It's
It's
just a
flying
standard wrestling
kick
drop
from
kick.
out of nowhere. Yeah.
It's not a crazy flying double foot kick. That's not what it's called.
No, standard drop kick. Pretty standard
No.
drop kick for a luchador too. Especially,
Well, you know what? It wasn't that standard in this moment because that's all that was needed. If he did anything else too fancy, it wouldn't have worked out the way it did.
Well, what I
Yeah.
liked about it was when he's fighting Miss Enigma, he stabs it perfectly in the bleacher, so it ends up like this. I was looking at it going, if you were kicked hard enough, would you fall backwards? And the way that the pitchfork is stuck into the bench,
Oh.
the angle, it looked right. It looked like he would just go.
Yeah.
And he was
It
stuck
was
there,
awesome.
and like he looks down at it, and then he dies like that. And like later,
Yeah.
when we get that kind of cool panning out shot where his head is still leaning forward, and like me and Danny had this like miniature argument where like Danny was like, his head should be backwards. I'm like, no, but he looked down, and his head, like the
Right.
gravity of your head would lull you
Boom.
forward, and like if you
It's
die
heavy,
like that, it's
yeah.
not just gonna. Yeah, you gotta have everybody got a heavy head. Come on.
Falls forward.
It's just a funny thing to argue about. I think is like,
It is.
what are we doing right now? This guy's head lulled
7
forward and
minutes later,
backward.
like,
You
okay,
decide.
okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah.
put it up on a Twitter poll. You guys have to tell us back
Fuck.
or forward here.
So meanwhile,
But
in
yeah,
the cage,
demise.
Diablos is about to kill Joe, and Joe puts his hand up. This was a scene that Steve, you said was pretty rough for you because
So
you
this
don't
is
like
the only
hand
kind of
stuff.
shit that fucks me up. So you can bash a person's brains in, you can break their legs and arms all damn day, but as soon as you bend a finger too long or stab through a hand and then put the knife up through the finger, that kind of shit, like it makes me so physically uncomfortable because your digits are the things you often injure the most, so you can empathize the most with those types of injuries and stuff. Like it's a lot easier for you to understand what it feels like, I guess, physically.
It was kind of a goofy effect, though. You have to admit the fingers were like they looked bad.
I think it looked fine. It looked
Oh.
fine
It looked
for
okay.
me.
Yeah.
I don't think it looked any
It was
goofier
gross.
than
It
like
was
the yeah. And then when it comes up through the
it goes
middle, like like it looked
Yeah.
digitally even, but like it's just the idea of it. That's what gets me. Like Jason, like if you watch, the gore that like freaks you out the most, the stuff that you often say to me, I'm like, yeah, but it's fake, and I understand it's fake. My brain and my body
True,
doesn't empathize with it, so I'm not like freaking out about it. But as soon as you put a finger too close to like a pin, even if it's too close, I'm like, like the
It's eye
anticipation
stuff.
just gets-
It's
Oh,
eye
no,
stuff
that's the
for
worst.
me.
Well, eye stuff
Anytime
is
that-
also the worst. Everybody.
I thought
has
this
eye
movie was going to be a series of things going into eyes. Like whenever
Mm.
whenever I tell you later that I was afraid going into a movie of like how the gore would be, I'm always afraid that it's going to be like a very
Yeah.
slow motion.
This is also
pike
not a
going
hot
into an
take.
eye.
This is just like a regurgitated thing that everybody like.
Fair.
Everybody has the same shit, but like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I can watch.
I'd hope so.
Kate the Great getting her face bashed in with a chain over and over again. And I'm not gonna go ew. I'm gonna go awesome, great, hilarious. Do more of that. The guy getting the blood coming out of his neck when he's in the fan. I'm like, this is amazingly shot. This deserves an effects Oscar.
Kate's nose split did put me off, but it also, when you look at it, it looked so good. Like it's such a good practical effect that I think is missing from a lot of horror now. But finally, Joe kicks Diablos in the leg, and Miss stabs Diablos, and they escape with the title.
They are working on that guy's knee. That whole fight is just them kicking him in the same knee over and over again. He's like, and like you can
body part.
You can see Chris Jericho in the sound booth going ah, like because like the screams and yells are like they're clearly not on scene, like they're not mic'd up during this fight, but like he's doing a really good like he probably has experience from going in to do like video game recordings and stuff where they're like, all right, a little bit more, Chris, like ah! And it's like happening over and over again, and I'm like, they're working that guy's knee. He's going down eventually.
Also, Miss Behaven's done video games. If you look at her IMDb, she was in Far Cry Primal.
Really?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So she's done video games as well. So that's a good observation.
I've played it actually.
It's fun. It's like if you took Far Cry and made it like a survival, like a Valheim or a little bit. It's cool.
Yeah, I have it. I've played like a few moments of it, but I haven't got into it.
So they make it out. The place burns up. Pretty good fire effect. I think they burnt that cabin, as far as I could tell. I think they burnt that place to they razed it.
I mean, that whole place looked like it was like, let's shoot here because they're going to demolish it in 3 months anyway, so we can burn it up and fuck it up as much as we want.
It also gives us one of the best lines of the movie was like, I told you to be a barn burner. Yeah, that was fucking awesome. Yeah.
Yes, which is a wrestling trope. I love that in horror movies when they do it for real, for burning down buildings or demolishing buildings, because you always have that in the back of your head. Like, clearly they bought this for super cheap because they were going to raise it anyway or flatten it or whatever. And this was great. There's one in. I'm
also starting my own wrestling foundation called Super Cheap. And it's just me and Jason.
Real low budget.
Yeah.
We're just grappling and
different gimmicks each time, so no one knows.
Yeah. Just like Saw, just like SAW.
Yeah.
There's actually 22 wrestlers in SAW, played by 4 guys.
It's also going to take place in the Great Hall parking lot, $5 a pop to watch. Yeah.
Great Hall parking lot. Yeah.
The crazy Kyle's out there having a cigarette.
Yeah, and he's watching. He's like, "This is fucking super great and super cheap."
Yeah. But as they drive away, the smiley woman from the production truck or area takes Enigma back and finishes the ritual. And then as the survivors drive away, the earth splits open and a horrible demon rises. Misbehaves straight up goes toe-to-toe with it. And then the movie ends.
I don't think she takes Enigma, does she? She takes Chris Jericho.
Oh, I read that. For some reason I thought she took Enigma.
Or maybe she takes both. But you know what? I could be wrong as well. I for some reason I thought it was Chris Jericho because like that was the final fight, was the spirit fight. But maybe the spirit fight just needed to be like anywhere. It didn't have to be part of the pentagram.
I think it came down to the camera.
But also it could have been like a weird smash cut where it could have been a smash cut where she dragged both of them down there. Where it was like she went up and got the other one, like while the fire is still going. She's like, I hope this one's not too burnt and crispy. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. So, what do you think happened with earlier, Steve? You said she gets ripped apart immediately by a demon.
Yeah. So did you say like they're driving away and then like she successfully does like like earth, wind, fire, heart. By your powers combined, I am Satan from hell. And he like flies after the van. I like the effect of like the snow parting on the road, and I do kind of like that it's going after them. I don't know why. Like, I guess I feel like it's going after her because, as we said, like established throughout this movie, for some reason she keeps having these dreams where she's being strangled by this demon, and nobody else
Yeah.
seems to be having any kind of weird fortuitous dreams. So like,
But like I
makes sense.
agree with you. It makes sense, but like I just wish they did something to make our assumptions feel validated. There's not much else to
Yeah.
go on. Like
it just
is
ends,
she
and it kind of
linked
sucks.
to
Yeah.
this demon somehow? Is she fated to fight it? Is it a metaphor for like demons of
And then also what the demon says is like, he says like, "Who dares awaken
Yeah.
me?" Like something
Yeah.
weird like that, right? Where I'm like,
she's like,
why not-
I do.
yeah, but imagine he said something like, "Finally, my chosen," or something like he's like there for her
Right.
specifically, you know? Like,
Yeah,
give me
us something a little bit.
Yeah. And then she could be
But
like,
that's
you know, like nobody
yeah.
chooses me but me, or I don't know, like something stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're not in the writer's room right now, but like if
silly
he,
that without anything else, just her getting out of a car with like a chain against a demon from the underworld is like this stupid lady is going to get ripped to shreds right now. Like
well, we
there's
know
nothing
that,
that
she's
makes
not gonna,
think you're gonna win
Yeah.
this.
also, I don't think that chain that she's using is the chain that she was using in the fight. I think that's her prop chain from the wrestling. So
Right.
it's like a
It's like a
plastic chain.
plastic chain from Dollarama. Like what the
Yeah.
fuck is going on right now?
So I think she's gonna
Um,
die, but like in my sort of like idea of how I think this should have ended, it's like the demon is after her for a specific reason, and
Yeah.
I don't think that it should have been to kill her. It should have been to be like, I'm the
I'll be
one
right
who's
back.
I'm the one who's been keeping that belt from you, but I'm also the one
Mhm.
that can ensure that you get that belt no matter what.
Hmm.
You'll get that belt, like a deal with the devil sort of thing, right?
No, that's cool. Yeah.
So maybe kill everybody except Rusty, and then she sacks Rusty because of what he did or whatever. And like the movie ends with her making a deal with the devil, or like walking down the highway with the devil
That's
together.
cool.
But I mean, you
I'm
know, they
down.
want to have kind of like a cool ending, which it isn't terrible. I don't hate a movie where two people are running at each other and we don't know.
No,
Who
I like to leave it up to the imagination. It's what spurns conversations like this. Like, what do you think would have happened? That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. And
I think we all agree
A lot
she
of
would
the
have got
time
her
it's better
arms
than-
and legs ripped off, and he would have been like, "Told you."
he would have went.
No one beats the
and then-
devil. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he would have.
He's
picked
like
up the
fucking
van, like,
12
crushed-
feet tall.
Yeah,
He's 12
exactly.
feet tall and he's got giant claws and hooves. Like, you're not winning with your plastic Dollarama chain.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you know, it is what it is. It fit for that kind of campiness in the movie,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
that's okay.
Maybe they'll make a
Um,
sequel and we'll see,
right.
you know, the aftermath of that fight. And maybe it'll start
People-
exactly how I just
God-
described it, where he's
Yeah.
like, "I told you I was here to give you a deal for the belt." And then Rusty's dead and Stephen Ogg is dead and it's just her and
Mhm.
the devil. And she's like, "Fine." And then the devil goes into her and then she's just fighting like a demon. And it's a bigger budget. We get stadium fights and all crazy shit. Like,
Yeah, climbs up the ranks of wrestling, and she's actually possessed. That's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
mhm.
Don't mind that at all.
Okay, well, that's a good revelation there. But Chris, we've kept you here. We have one. That's the end of the movie. We have one final segment. We have
Oh, you
to
didn't
hold
keep
you
me
here
here, my
for it.
friend. I'm here happily
He's
and
invested. Yeah.
thankful
I
to
love
be
that so much.
invited on this show. And I
Well,
hope
you're
I
you're
can-
welcome back anytime. Spoilers for the part where I
Thank you.
invite you back. But this okay. So this is the final segment of the show. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the sheet I gave you. There's one segment of it called the Home Alone of it all, but I'll go first to like show you what it is. But this is actually our Home Alone of it all and our final thoughts.
If you had to pick one,
So again,
when you think the Home
when
Alone of it
is
all?
the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone?
I
of it
really
all
gotta
When's the
know.
Home Alone
When
of it all?
is the Home Alone of it all?
What is
the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
Can we still hear you?
Yes, it was breaking up for a second there, but it's good now.
Could you
Oh,
hear
heard the
the?
Home
Now
Alone.
that's the Home Alone. of it
Oh, I
all."
sure did.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Well, it matters.
this is basically like your final thought on the film, but the Home Alone of it all is the idea that every film in existence has that moment that is akin to in the movie Home Alone when Kevin McAllister takes the blueprint and slaps it down on the table and he gets ready. He creates his Jigsaw-esque murder festival for the wet bandits.
The bandits. Yeah.
We've posited that every movie sort of has that, and what it sort of means is the part of the movie you're there to see what everything has sort of built up to. It could also be just like your favorite part of the movie, and it could also just be the third act of the movie a lot of times. So just to show you, since this is your first time here, you're in the One Timers Club. It is an exclusive club. There's only a few of you because we invite everybody back so many times.
Awesome.
But I'll just say my Home Alone of it all for this film was when the matches at the compound began.
That's what I was going to say as well. I wasn't sure about what specific part happened, but likely when I started realizing, brain clicked that there's gonna be like these element themed matches happening. That's exactly what I want, especially knowing that it's a horror movie, and I know these things are not going to end in a 1, 2, 3. These are going to end in a 1, 10 death. And that's the part. So yeah, once the format of the movie of the matches clicked to me, that was
then since you took that ball and ran with it, since you've kind of given us your Home Alone, why don't now you give us your final thought, like your final thoughts for the film, and then also like a rating for the movie. It can be out of 5 or 10, or it can just be some nonsense like
no, absolutely. You know what? I was pleasantly surprised. Like I thought this would be not as entertaining as it was. I didn't ever want to not stop watching it. Maybe the wrestling motif had a lot to do with it. I'm a huge wrestling fan, so it was just kind of fun. But, all things considered, the demonic cult aspect was cool. Jericho kind of fumble as a cult leader was very amusing and entertaining. All the little logic gaps that I like to sow myself kept me entertained. Acting was never taken out. There wasn't that one person that makes me like kind of cringe or like zaps me out of the suspension of disbelief, which I always enjoy. It was a tight package, at an hour and a half. Like I always have time for a movie like that. There's rare movie that's an hour and a half that's so bad I have to turn it off. So yeah, I like the build up, a good little first half of like, let's get to this creepy compound, and then the second half is all gore, all action, all the time. And nice too, nice little imaginative payoff, perhaps a few chains unlinked that they could have melded a bit together with the protagonist and her bond to this demonic entity, or the nightmare she kind of was unresolved. But I can see past that. I had a great time watching it, even better time talking about it. And if I had to rate it, this might sound like a low rating, but because there's so many great movies out there, I have to really put it where I would put it. I would give this like a 5.2, 5.3. It's something I would always watch. It's above mediocre. It's campy. It fit the bill. It was perfect for especially.
And that's a 5.3 out of 100.
Yeah, 5.3 out of 47. Yeah, I might go a little higher. It's like a 5.5, 5.6. Yeah.
Well, thank you. As I alluded to earlier, of course, you are welcome back to the couch anytime.
Thank you.
You'd like to come back.
I'd love to hear your ratings quickly for it too, just to see stack where I put it. Like, what would you have rated that?
Steve, how about you?
Well, my Home Alone of it all to begin with is gonna have to be the moment that Chris Jericho comes onto the stage, or it's like a balcony, I guess, overlooking this empty like waiting pool hotel area. I don't know what the fuck is going on in this area, but when he comes out and Stephen Ogg starts being like, holy shit, holy fuck, does anybody know what the fuck? And he starts being like, they dragged me, and they're all like laughing at him. I'm like, this is not going to be the movie that I thought it was going to be. And I was still kind of iffy. I'm like, is it going to be a slasher? And I'm like, oh no, this is not. Everybody in this barn / motel in the middle of nowhere is here for whatever's happening. This is going to be a cult movie, and I'm all for it, because I was expecting a slasher movie and I had kind of built it up in my head. But the idea of a cult movie built around wrestling it makes way more sense thematically.
Yeah, right. Too.
Yeah, and like not
Good
even
fit.
to just, and not to like, disparage people who, identify with wrestling or obsess over wrestling, but like there is sort of like a cultish type of behavior that is involved in that type of fandom that
Big
doesn't
time.
that doesn't really exist outside of a lot of other mediums. So I think that
Yeah.
like it adheres to it so well that I was like,
Yeah.
this is going to be fantastic, even if
The
it sucks.
fanaticism of wrestling
Yeah.
fans very much parlays into like a cult type following.
And like
It
people are
was-
so willing to suspend their disbelief in the idea of wrestling to believe in the storylines there, even though they've been told it their whole lives. Like, it's not real, it's not real. It's like, I know it's
Yeah.
not fucking real, but
We
I'm
know.
having fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
watch my soap opera the same way you go watch your soap opera, which is
when
whatever
I go to watch a
television show
movie,
you
I
like.
know it's not real. When I go to watch
Yeah.
live, I know fans not real. It doesn't matter. I'm here to
And
watch a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the idea of somebody passing that threshold where they're like, oh, maybe it isn't though. Like maybe, like even though I've been
Mhm.
told it's fake forever, maybe I can cross over into a world where it's real. Like all of that was really appealing to me, and I'm like, this could be tasty. Even if it sucks, I'll probably still enjoy what
Yes.
this movie is doing.
Yeah.
And I did, and like the movie is not amazing. Like I'm not going to say
No.
it sucks, but I'm also not going to say it was terrible. Like I had a good time watching it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like perfect for what it is. It really
And I think that's the moment in the movie that made me realize that I'm going to be watching something that's probably at least a little bit different than other things that I've seen before. In terms of like overall feelings for the movie, I think I kind of like gave it up there, but like I do think that like some of the effects for the fighting in the latter half of the movie were like really impressively well done.
Yeah.
Even if they're super simple, it's like, oh, you can tell that thought was put here, and even if they didn't know the effect they were going to get out of it, it still worked. I think they kind of blew their money shot in that first fight, because the blood in the fan is like something that I've never really seen before in horror movies, and I've seen a billion horror movies at this point, but like having
Yes.
an
Oh,
under
God, I've
fan
seen
with
them.
somebody who's like dying and their blood is going upwards, like, and having it not be digital or something, it was like I was watching it with my friend, my partner, and we were like, that was good, right? Like we've seen a lot of these blood effects, and like that's something we haven't really seen. I can't think of another movie that's done something like that without it being gimmicky. Like this is just sort of like, no, the effect is there's a giant fan underneath them. That's what the blood would do, and it looked great.
Yeah.
And then overall as a movie, like it's competent in everything that it's doing. The latter half is just sort of like fight on top of fight on top of fight, with an attempt to have a little bit of like a fun escape stuff going on.
Yeah.
Storytelling is not great, but it's competent enough to keep you intrigued. And if you like wrestling, you'll probably like it even more. I'm not even a huge wrestling person, but like I still found joy in it, and I liked it. So I think that if I had to give it a review, I wouldn't give it the heart of Captain Planet, nor would I give it the spirit of Chris Jericho, but I would give it a Lilo Dallas multi-pass of The Fifth Element, if you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know.
Very nice. Well said review.
So I gave my Home Alone of it all. It's when the matches start, but I liked it for what it was. It has an indie film quality that a lot of TV horror movies have. And that's what kind of like tricked me a little bit, because I thought it was going to be way more like horror from the beginning. But that's neither here nor there. It has a Shudder original tag on it. It's a Shudder movie, but it also did well in the indie film awards sphere. It won a couple awards. I was expecting a bit more, obviously, but I was also expecting something different. So I was pleasantly surprised with what we did get. The story is a little flimsy. but it's got a lot of roots in fantasy. So there's that. In order to get the kills, we have to have a reason, and wrestling works surprisingly well. The
Yeah.
CGI for the demon at the end was also bad, but not that bad.
It wasn't
It's-
CGI. It was CGI for one shot. Most of it was
And it
practical.
was practical. Yeah. I know he's always wanted to pursue acting, but it never really took off for him. Chris Jericho, of course. He isn't that good. Aisha Issa was good in this film. Stephen Ogg was a good main protagonist along with Aisha Issa. And Stephen Ogg was showing his chops as the support. Overall, I give it a 3.2 out of 5. I also give this
Okay.
film 4 Hey Did You See This One episodes that stand as the 4 different matches to summon Satan this month. I guess this episode would be Wind.
Oh,
Wind.
okay.
But what? There's 5 though.
Yeah, you missed
There's-
Spirit.
Yeah.
Well, Spirit is the friends we made along the way.
Oh.
And just I know, Chris, you got to get out of here. You got to go to your party. I wish I was going to a party, but
Oh,
I think we have to just do
we'll
our
see if I
plugs.
make. Yeah.
I think we just have to
A
do
full
our
bottle of this
plugs.
fucking Bailey's, which is random. That's all I had, so I went for it.
Hey, it works. What
Yeah.
about plugs?
Oh, the plugs. The
All
plugs.
right, let me just plug this in right here and.
There's the spirit. There's the spirit that
Yeah, that's
I
the
thought was going to happen in the cage match.
When he dies,
Uh,
the spirit goes like, oh, like like an old cartoon.
Yeah,
Chris,
yeah.
what do you have to plug? What do you got
Oh,
going on?
well, I just had a board game launch on Kickstarter. It was successful. It got funded. We're still accepting late pledges. I believe you can get onto Kickstarter. Look for Lairs, Lairs. It's by Board Gaming. Check it out. Even if you don't feel like pledging right now, just know that it exists. It'll be coming to retail in December, I believe, at the latest of this year. So maybe check for it in the shelves. And also, Super. If you like wrestling dark match, come see it live in a similar environment to SAW. It's going to be at the Great Hall in the end of April. The
April
date
24th.
escapes me right now, but yeah,
April
sorry,
25th.
say it again.
April 25th.
April
yeah.
25th.
April 25th. Yeah.
Live at the Great Hall. Super Kicked will be in. So yeah, come and see Jason and or Jason there. And that's about that. I mean, on to you, Jason.
Well, thank you so much. This week, I would like to promote this show. You can find us every week here on Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. We go live
Mhm.
each and every week at 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can find our episodes the next day on YouTube as on-demand content and an audio-only version. Just really quickly, since I didn't do it 2 weeks ago, I did it last week. But you can buy all of our merch. We have merch. You can get this picture right here, the Grimoire of Familiar Killers,
Nice.
drawn by Steve Waters himself.
Love it.
You can get the Kill-Aid Man. You
Oh,
can get
that's sick.
Tinkerbell. You can
Okay, I
get
love the Kill-Aid,
Zardos,
man.
and you can get the Howie Mandela effect. All of these are available on t-shirt. And coming soon from our James Bond month in February, you can get Corporal Tunnel Syndrome,
Oh.
the James Bond villain. And also because you're new here, you get Teabagged by Zed. That's a
Oh,
coming of age story for
Zardoz.
all of us.
Zardoz,
Man.
stop.
Thank you, Steve. What do you got cooking on the back burner?
Well, as always, if you guys like my voice, I do voice acting for Darth Theorist and the Three-Eyed Theorist. I am also working on a game right now, which I should be coming out soon, but I'm not allowed to talk about it yet. But I did get into a lot of arguments this week about AI, the ethics of AI art on TikTok and all sorts of social media platforms. So because Studio Ghibli was getting really upset, or Miyazaki himself, I decided to draw my D&D character as a Ghibli character using no AI. It did take hours. It did take a lot of reference work, but I did it. Here it is. This is my character from D&D as a Ghibli character.
Hey, yours, man. That looks awesome.
I think it looks pretty good. It looks like
sick.
it could exist in some sort of like Nausicaa like villain or something.
Yeah.
His name's Brand. He's evil. He loves torturing people and he loves using poison. But anyway,
Love the gun. It kind of reminds me of an old laser tag kind of gun, but like redone. Like
yeah, I
kinda
put a
got
bunch
that
of. So
similar
this guy
feel.
also has like a bunch of teenagers working for him. They spray paint everything. So he's like, "Yeah, give me a gun," and they like threw him on. He's like, "Why is there spray paint all over this?" And it's like, "Well, you told us to spray paint the city," and I was like, "Did I? Did I tell you to do that?" All right, well, I guess that's fine.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's how he talks.
that looks good, man.
Thanks, dude.
You
Well,
can't
it
draw
is.
like that, Jason.
No, I can't. Thank you for reminding me.
Just remind me.
We're gonna son of a bitch, you're so good. So we're gonna do something a little bit different here. Chris, if you need to bounce, that's fine. But because of the spirit of Slam Campbell, he was supposed to be here tonight but couldn't make it. I'm gonna play his review. It's about 5 minutes long. So if you have to go, that's perfectly fair. But before we do that, I'm gonna try to Sherpa you through this. Chris,
Yes.
there's one question that needs to be asked each and every week. Do you think that you could conjure up what that question is? I'm going to give you a hint. It's the name of the show.
Sorry, can you say that again? There's a question that is asked once a week.
Each and every week. And
Yes.
I need you to ask that right now. It's also the name of the show.
Hey, did you see that film?
Okay. So here's the thing with Dark Match. I think it's fine. It's nothing spectacular, but at the same time, it's not a fucking train wreck of a movie either. I think one of my problems with it is a matter of tone. In that.
I like how it sounds like he's lying on
tries
his
to
back
be a
in the ring
very
right now.
serious movie by involving all the drama with Misbehave and her boyfriend or not boyfriend as it may be. It's I liked that stuff. I liked how seriously they were taking this character, right? And the heavily implied racism that her life and her character suffer from, right? But at the same time, it's trying to be a schlocky B movie. And it's walking a line that I don't think it quite has a handle on yet, because it'll jump back and forth between these two tones throughout the film. I liked the subversion of, oh no, it's not a cult, they're just doing this as snuff movies. And I would have preferred if the movie had kept on with that, of like, oh, this is just capitalism. The bad guy is capitalism the whole time. But then the twist at the end where it does turn out they are able to summon a demon, blah, blah, blah. It's just like... I
thought he liked camp.
I preferred
What the
it
heck?
when it was just people are assholes, people are terrible. But that's just my personal taste with it. I think maybe not use Chris Jericho in this role. He wants to take himself so seriously doing this role, and he's Chris Jericho, and he just doesn't have that kind of gravitas, I think, to pull off this kind of role. Good for him for trying, and it's always safer in a little indie movie, but he's better when he's Chris Jericho, right? It's a character he knows very well, and this character of the prophet / the leader really isn't that. I think that a lot of the special effects, nice and gnarly, that was great. You know, lots of blood, a lot of cool flesh effects, like when Misbehave is beating up Kate the Great and her face is basically like caving in. And you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Excellent use of the mysterious enigma and his whole mute deal, because of course you're building up to he's going to say something, right? Like there's no point in having the character mute and then not have him go out on a line or something. So when he died, quote unquote, in the beginning, I was like, oh, well, that was just a weird choice for a character to have for no reason. And then to have him come back and his only line be kayfabe, brilliant. I actually really enjoyed that, right? I mean, as for the rest of it, it's solid. Like, I can see this director growing into somebody who has better films in them. This is pretty good. It's just not quite there. Either it needed to be far more serious, more grounded in a kind of green room thing, you know, the Patrick Stewart and what's his name, dead guy, Anton something. Like that kind of movie where it is just like, oh, just horrible people doing horrible shit. Or if it had leaned a little bit more into, you know, the schlocky over the top, you know, grindhouse kind of thing with like demons and crap, then, you know, you would have gotten a very different film. And this movie's just, it's trying to do both, and it's just not quite succeeding at both. But I liked the cast for the most part. I liked the direction. It had interesting choices, great composition of scenes. I think it was well made, well shot. And then, you know, that final thing comes out where it's like, oh, we're trying to make this demon thing look 10 feet tall, and we're just shooting a dude in makeup from a very low angle and then shooting her from a very high angle. And that felt lazy. But, yeah, I would give this a very solid middle of the road. It's not awful, but it's not great. It's pretty good as a background thing to put on. I won't get into the details of all the wrestling stuff that, you know, irked me, because I went, oh, no, hold on. That didn't exist. That's not a thing. That's not what we do. But that's giving away all our secrets, so... Right, yeah, I mean, if you want to see like a cool, weird wrestling thing, kind of like this, but actually made in the 80s, there's an episode of Quantum Leap where he jumps into the body of a tag team guy, and the show fully believes that all the kayfabe is real. So do with that what you will. Until then, yeah, like 2.5 to 3 stars out of 5. Okay, so pretty, just it's fine. All right, Slam Campbell signing off or whatever. Bye. Yeah.
Well,
oh man. Tag team guy was also my nickname in high school. The leader is good. The leader is great. Surrender your will as of this date. The leader is good. The leader is great. Surrender your will as of this date.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.
A ver, hijo de la chingada, deja de estar viendo memes, pendejo.
A la verga, me vale verga, perro. Y cállate a la verga, hija de su puta madre, a la verga. La verga, verga, sus...